Hello, everybody. Welcome to DannyBTalks. Welcome to the NASCAR Weekly Podcast. I'm your host for tonight. We've got a great show ahead of you guys. And to get things started off, just to let you know what we got planned here, we're going to be starting the show off with an interview with Julia Landauer that was performed by our very own Black Flags Matter Indy Iceberg. Looking forward to letting you all see that. Then afterwards, we're going to be going live. We'll have Jake Baskinger and NASCAR journalist Matt Weaver on the show tonight. So strap in. It's going to be a lot of fun. And make sure you mask up. And we're good to go. Welcome to the NASCAR Weekly Podcast.
Green flag. I'll roll him. I'll roll him.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Darren Gilliam, aka Black Flags Matter, back with another edition of one of our pre-recorded podcast interviews. This time, and only Julia Landauer. Did I say your last name right? Please tell me.
I was thinking about that. Yeah, you said it right.
All right, I was about to botch that one. I was a little afraid of that, live on air, but no, it's all good. So, really appreciate you coming on the show today. So, figured I'd ask you for the first question. So, out of the ordinary for a NASCAR driver to be considered a Stanford graduate, I didn't know that about you. Talk about that whole experience, what it was like going there.
Yeah, so I grew up in New York City, and I went to a public school for math and science for high school. And I was racing the whole time. So I started racing when I was 10 and did cars when I was 13. And the whole time, I feel like my parents were very realistic with me that funding would come to an end from them, and there was a lot to learn from the business side, and that they were always big supporters of me following my dream, trying to be a race car driver, but also very realistic that there are only 40 top level NASCAR drivers in the world. So they're slim. So I think they always wanted to have some backup plan. But then also I just wanted to develop as a person, and I come from a very tight-knit family. I felt like I needed to grow on my own to be able to make it by myself in North Carolina and all that. And but it was really great. I loved school. I loved how so much related back to my racing, whether it was on the technical mechanical side and in physics classes or design classes, or communication classes and figuring out how to communicate with an audience. It was all really cool. There were a lot of racing fans there and car people there, so that was also great. And California is beautiful. So
a lot of racing fans at Stanford, really?
Yeah, there were a lot. Now it was more on the Formula One sports car.
Oh, okay, I figured so.
But I mean, especially on the engineering side, people, if they liked cars, they liked cars, and I think they liked learning more about NASCAR and some of the other cars I've driven. I've raced late models, Legends cars, and Formula cars, and so it was cool to kind of nerd out with people.
Did any of the open wheel fans kind of talk down to the stock car fans, you guys,
Yeah, I think from the student population not so much, but it's kind of that area is also the center of the VC world and startups, and some guys who have take their sports cars out to the tracks like Laguna Seca, or there was some to NASCAR, but yeah. I think it, and I think what's so cool about NASCAR is that the racing is just so intense and so active all the time. You get some long green flag runs, but for the most part, it's side-by-side racing, which was part of what I loved when I dabbled in it when I was 16, is that the racing is just so intense all the time. And so explaining that, I think, had people excited. But also someone who was from the New York area, he raced indoor karts a lot. And so he brought a bunch of people out when I raced at Sonoma. So it was kind of cool just to get these people who didn't think they would like racing out to the track.
Right.
So one thing that I picked up on there that you were talking about was being kind of in front of audiences as well. And when I was looking up some stuff about you, found your TED Talks. And I wanted to ask, how did you get into that? And then about the subject, one that really, it just caught my attention was when we were talking about fear in a race car. So I guess, could you kind of elaborate on both of those?
Yeah, you bet. So when I was at school, Stanford has a TEDx event that they put on every year. And they asked me my junior year, and I couldn't do it because I had to go to the Survivor live finale. So that was an interesting conflict that they hadn't had before. But then I was able to do it my senior year. They asked me again, and they just said they wanted to hear from a student and someone who's doing cool stuff. And so I worked with a speaking coach who helped me kind of come up with a story. And I was so nervous. I mean, I was so sweaty before I got on stage, and it was the most, intense 8 minutes out of a race car that I had experienced, and I really liked it. And I liked making people laugh, and that was really cool. It was a power I did not have like in normal social settings, so I liked that. And figured out how to make it into more of a career and use it to help fund my racing, since then. But then in 2019, someone else me from a TEDx conference in New York asking if I could talk about fear. And I hadn't really thought a lot about fear much before my K&N series in 2016. And it was actually because my teammate Chris Eggleston and I went to a local elementary school in San Bernardino, I think, and someone asked if we got scared, and I just said no, like you can't get scared because then you won't drive the car.
Won't go fast, right?
Yeah, exactly. You won't drive on the limit. And then Chris gets up and he's like, well, I guess I'm different than Julia because I do get scared. And I just thought, oh my God. Lying to everyone, like, who's like a dumbass now? Sorry, I didn't curse.
No, it's all good.
All good.
Yeah.
So that really got me thinking, and the nerd in me was really interested in like the biology of fear, because you can feel when you get scared, you can sense it mentally. So kind of getting a kind of surface level understanding of what physically happens to you so that you can try to treat the symptoms. Because I was able to still be scared. I realized I was scared, but other things overcame that fear, the excitement. I sprint before every race, and that helps get rid of some of the nerves. And so it was a really interesting topic to jump into, and it's one that's relatable to everybody.
Absolutely. So you made some K&N starts last year. Well, it used to be called the K&N series, and now it's the ARCA East and West series. Which series did you make your starts in? Correct?
It's the West series. I did K&N West back now racing in 2016 and 2017. So I did a few K&N East races. We got to race at Bristol, which was so much fun. We had a great car, and I had to start at the back because we didn't have qualifying, and it was my first East race of the year. And we were just a little bit free, and we were just passing people on the outside, and it was so much fun. I think I got up to like 7th at the halfway break, and then it rained, so we didn't get to finish. Bristol is a badass track.
But you still kept the top 10 though, like even though it rained.
Yeah. No, I kept 7th.
Good. All right, sure.
But it's scary if you don't see anything. Like, you don't really kind of know what that's going to be like, because everyone says that, but you don't know what it's going to be like until you're actually there. And you're like, is this turn 1 or is this turn 3? Like, it's just a concrete wall.
Oh, it's the same with like just watching it in person. Like, that's actually where me and Jared actually first met in person. Like, we had, like our first ever interaction was Bristol, the night race weekend. It was awesome.
Oh, it's so great. It's
it was awesome.
Well, so I was looking through as well, and the last 2 years you've been in the Pinty series. What has that really been in comparison to like the K&N series and other racing series you've been in?
Yeah, so we were talking kind of before we went live, and it's a pretty underrated series, I think, if you ask me. I mean, what I was so impressed with was, one, the races are pretty long. So in K&N, our races average like an hour to an hour and a half. And in Pinty series, it's like much closer to 2.5 hours. So it's a longer race. The competitors they're so aggressive, but so clean. And I think it's a slightly older group of drivers. And I was just so impressed because we went to race at Riverside, which is in Nova Scotia, and it's a 3rd-mile high banked. I think they call it a Little Bristol. And we went there, and someone blew motor in the beginning, so that caused a caution. But the only other caution we had was because of debris on the track. Like, it was just so impressive that we could be on this tight, high banked, high speed track, and no one was crashing each other out. It was really nice. And it's just, they're really respectful drivers. And, we had some tough luck. Equipment wasn't always there when I was doing it. But it was really fun last year to race, second behind DJ Kennington, my team owner, in that first race up there at Jukasa, which is a really beautiful track. So it was really cool. Lots of traveling. And even though Canada's closer than the West Coast, it seemed like it was more difficult. And getting to Saskatchewan was also a challenge. But it was a great series. And the cars they were a little less, I think, they weren't quite as sporty as some of the K&N stuff that I had driven, but they were really consistent and fun to drive.
So not only are you a race car driver, TED talker, if you want to call it that sort of thing, you're also a survivor as well, from the TV show too, like way back in the day. what was it, like, what, 8 years ago you were on it, 7 years ago, around there?
Gosh, yeah, we filmed 8 years ago, almost exactly.
Dang. See, it seems like so long ago now, because I think I was a freshman in high school back then when, like, that first aired, probably. So, like, it feels like forever ago. But yeah, you were on there. Kind of talk about that.
Yeah, so I was having a conversation. My roommate and I were talking about, TV shows, and she was like, "All these really cool women are on Survivor." Like, and so we were just talking about it, and I decided to apply, and I got on, luckily. And I mean, it was so challenging. It was my sophomore year of college. I had to finish my classes early, which I was able to do. And I mean, all I can say is that the show is very real. Like, it wouldn't be a 40-something season if it wasn't that challenging, that rough. Because I mean, you think you know what to expect, but like day 7 of being super hungry is just different in real life than it is when you're imagining it. And they're very colorful characters, or not characters, but colorful people who you see there. And I mean, it really does play out the way it organically does. And so the challenges were super fun. I was on a fans versus favorites season, so it's half people who had played before, half people who didn't, and I'm bitter about that. I think that's so unfair. It's that
is unfair.
It's like a back marker team and having them compete against like a Hendrix or a Gibbs, right? Like,
yeah.
And of any of the shows too, like that's got to be the biggest one where like having the prior knowledge has the most advantage in too.
Oh yeah, just like the mental hurdle of like, I know I'm going to get through this, or I know how badly it's going to suck, but then I'm going to see myself.
Well, maybe it would have worked out better if they sorted it out to where there's like 2 different winners, a newcomer and
yeah, but part of it was that like we won the first challenge, like right off the boat. First challenge was so great, like so cool. Or maybe it was the second challenge. I'm forgetting now, but one of the early ones.
Yeah, one of the 2.
And then we just lost everything, like one challenge after the other. And so for me, as a very competitive person, that was horrible. And trying to keep morale up, in addition to getting hungry, and it's raining, and I got so sunburned, it was awful. So that it definitely took a toll. And then in the season, because we were just getting obliterated, they ended up switching up the tribe, so mixing returning players and new, which is like, great, we've got like a. And then I got put on the new tribe that had like the oldest man and oldest woman, and then the smallest man and the smallest woman. So it's just
that's bad luck. That's bad luck right there.
Yeah, it's like when you're like a lap or 2, probably more like 3 or 4 laps down.
Yeah.
And you stay out there, just give it your all. And it's like, okay,
yeah,
but like I'm gonna win this race. And then I had my episode that I got voted out. The eventual winner said that I'm tempted to say that Julia has a vanilla personality, but I fear that would do a disservice to the flavor of vanilla, because people actively seek out vanilla flavored products and no one seeks out Julia. So,
wow.
9 million people.
That's rough.
So I just found out on Reddit, though, that apparently he has apologized and realized that he was a total dick. But it doesn't matter. That still happens. So
yeah, it still happened in front of like millions of people, though. So it doesn't matter. I mean, it's wildly entertaining, but kind of hurtful.
Oh yeah, like that's what I'm known for. Which is, it's like I can look back on it and say, you did a good job. Like that's funny, but it sucks.
Yeah.
So it was really frustrating. I loved it. It was. Fun's not the right word, it's so challenging and so miserable for so much of it, but it was incredible.
I find when somebody's negative about me like that, the way I kind of turn it into a positive is I basically just meme the hell out of it. So I'll just meme it or turn it into like a funny little video. And Jarrett's the same way too. Like we're basically like that. So I don't know, like kind of take that quote and make some t-shirts maybe or something like that,
I feel like that would have been so different. And because I was on it in this really weird time when like social media was just really starting. Like
yeah.
I didn't have an Instagram when I went on the show. Like I hadn't gotten it yet, even though I was like, Instagram was made.
I've had it since my freshman year, so I was on there before you. Like,
before you. So I feel like now I have a much different ability to handle it. And also, I mean, for me, I was 20 when I was on it, and I think I was the youngest person out there that time. And it was like the biggest shock to my system in terms of like how much hate you can get online. And like I'm really grateful that I wasn't a teenager with social media, because like bombarded, and then it's just total hit to your self-esteem. Like,
oh yeah, no, we talk about it. Yeah, no, we talk about it all the time. Like, thank goodness we're doing YouTube while we're in college. Like, if I were doing this in high school, I would just be a mess. I couldn't handle it at all. I would not
Same
be able
here.
to handle it.
I wouldn't be able to handle it as a teenager at all. No way possible.
I feel like I'm only just able to handle it,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm like pushing 30 eventually, so it's like, it's a challenge. So kudos to all the young people who are on social media and not letting it get them down.
Oh yeah, the youngest YouTuber in our community is 14 years old. Just saying. Yeah. No, he's good though. He's a good kid though.
I was trying to like at 14, I was in middle school. I hated middle school, obviously, because it's a rough time for everyone. But it's also when I raced Skip Barber and won that championship, and so I can't even imagine like being in front of a huge audience at that age. So, wow, impressive.
So, Julia, with the last question, I really want to ask about what you have coming up, because you're in, I believe it's the NASCAR Wheel-In Euro Series, and I'm looking on your website, and like just the places these races are scheduled to be at. I don't know if they're changing it or not because of the COVID apocalypse. I mean, the UK, Netherlands, Italy, Germany. What's it going to be like to be able just to race in all kinds of different countries in one series?
Dude, I'm so excited. I'm excited for a couple of reasons. One, the Euro Series seems so cool, and from what I've watched, it's these like shorter kind of sprint races. It's like a 35 minute race, so you're kind of just all out all the time, which is my favorite kind of racing. The cars have so much mechanical and lateral grip. We race in the rain, which I've been good at in the past. I just haven't done it recently, so like it'll be interesting those first few laps. But and the competitors are really cool. I think just being able to travel to all those places will be great. One, like some very historical tracks with a lot of significance, like Brands Hatch. Hopefully we, get there sooner rather than later. And I think that the other thing that, just as a personal perspective, I've experienced racing in the Northeast. I've experienced racing in California and now in the South. And so to just see what it is like, and they have these huge fans. They get 20 or 30,000 people out to the tracks, which may or may not happen this year, but we'll see.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Still, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool, and just like it'll be interesting to see kind of if the camaraderie is different, or how they might race me differently or not. There aren't a ton of Americans who've gone over and done it. I'm just super excited with a great team with PK Car Sport. So just excited to get out there and start testing soon, hopefully, and maybe not too soon, but soon enough. And then just try to hopefully we get all the races, and I think that's the plan right now. So now just kind of on hold, waiting.
Right. So my last question for you is, you're talking about, you just talked about how you're going to do the whole Euro Series. When can we possibly see you in, let's say, the top 3 echelon series of NASCAR?
I'm working on it, working really hard all the time, basically on sponsorship and getting that support needed financially to climb ranks, have some relationships with teams, which is exciting, but it's not it. So just doing what I can, and we'll see how, the whole landscape of racing shakes out after this. Maybe it won't, but the goal is still to get to the top levels of NASCAR. But in the meantime, I'm going to have a lot of fun racing in the Euro Series.
All right, that sounds good.
Well, Julia, thank you so much for being on. We know you're probably really busy right now, so just where can people find you right now on social media?
For sure. Well, thank you for having me. This was a very fun conversation. So thank you for the energy.
It was fun for us too.
Yeah. Oh, great. I'm on social media at Julia Landauer, Julia Landauer, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I love hearing from you guys. So, yeah, thank you for having me. And, hopefully we'll still get a really good 2020 season out of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, for sure. We'll see what happens. Really appreciate you coming on. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching this part of the podcast. And now, back to the live show.
And that was our interview with Julia Landauer. Thank you so much to Darian Gilliam and Jasper. I just pointed the wrong direction, but that's okay. But thank you guys so much for doing that. But hey, we have 2 special guests here. We have 3 special guests. We're welcomed by our special guest Eric Estep.
He's back. He's back, man. It's been forever.
It's
good to be back.
And then we have our friend Jack Baskinger, and then we've got Matt Weaver. You saw Matt on the channel when we were watching WrestleMania. So welcome back to all you guys.
Yes,
Good to
finally
be
we
here.
have you. Yes, finally we have you guys back. Man, we got racing back this week though, Danny.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, it's
That's more important.
good.
Everyone cancel the iRacing subscriptions. Let's get rid of virtual racing. We're going back to real racing now.
I would don't cancel it, but look now.
I'm kidding. That's completely a joke. We're just all
Now
happy
we
to have
got
real
racing back. Real racing's
Don't-
back finally.
Don't cancel it the moment that I get back on.
No, I'd have to say though, like I kind of feel bad for like the people that have been on there for years because now there's this surge of people who can't drive on iRacing. Like I would have to assume, I'd have to assume because there was a certain poll that Danny put in the chat. I'm like, wow, this many people joined iRacing.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I couldn't believe the actual numbers of new subscribers that came in because they had it. I saw a chart. It had it broke down.
I'm one.
Yeah, he's one. It had it broke down year by year. Like month by month for the last 3 years, and for the most part, they stayed steady about maybe 9 to 10,000 new subscribers. But
That's good.
for like April, they was like jumped up to 40,000. It was incredible.
Instantly, just so many people just joining it. And I mean, I like the coverage too, and I like just like the press it got around it and the attention it got around it as well. There were some flaws with it though, but overall, it was a good experience. It was something different too. I really respected that too, and the fact that they ended it all with North Wilkesboro was perfect. It was the icing on the cake.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we could probably just jump into that if you guys want. What do you guys think of North Wilkesboro?
I mean, like, since I was talking, I might as well go first. But I mean, like, I don't know. I thought it was a good race. It was the lowest viewed though, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I don't know. I just wanted, I just wanted, like, I think the reason was because, the reason for that was because the race was on a Saturday. Like, even David Land didn't even know the race was on a Saturday. Even like a couple hours before it was slated to start, I thought it was on Sunday. But then like I saw tweets from their Twitter account saying like, "Oh, the race is today." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I'll just watch it. I'm like, all right. Yeah. But no, the race was good. Wasn't like a major wreck fest, but oh my God, Clint Boyer is just. I mean, like he's the funniest. Clint Boyer is the funniest thing. Like he really was the one who like. In my view, he's the face of like the Pro Invitational Series throughout this whole time, just because he was in the broadcast booth and he drove too. Like, yeah, Jeff. Yeah, exactly. He's just having fun, and like, yeah, Jeff Gordon was in there too. But I don't know, Clint Boyer's personality is on a whole nother level, so that's not even a shocker. And I don't know, like, it makes you think. Like, I mean, if Fox ever looks for a third person, I mean, I'd have to say Clint Boyer's like perfect to be in there with Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon if they decide to keep them long term. Like obviously Jeff Gordon's going to be there for a while, and who's to say Mike Joy won't eventually retire. But like for the foreseeable future, if like in the near future, if Clint Boyer ever decides to retire, I mean, I wouldn't mind him having in the broadcast booth for cup races.
Well, I don't know if you guys can agree with this. Granted, Matt's he's there doing his own media, so I don't know how much of the broadcasting he gets to see. But for me as a fan who mostly watches on TV, I feel like there's something missing between the pairing of Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon. Like Darrell Waltrip, even as much criticism as he got later in his career, he was kind of like a perfect glue that was holding them together. Mm-hmm. And I think 3 is a magic number for when it comes to broadcasting racing. So a Clint Boyer figure who is just funny and goofy as can be would be a great addition.
Well, to be honest, in this era, like when you look at broadcasting in this era of NASCAR, really since the turn of the new millennium, like not like there hasn't been many like just 2 broadcast pairings. Like I can only think of like maybe a handful of races over the past 10, 20 years that's like, okay, there's only like 2 people. And now all of a sudden it's the new norm. Like, I don't know, like back in like the 80s and 90s, like having only 2 guys in the booth was normal at the time. But like, I don't know. And like today, it just doesn't feel right to me just because we've had 3 people in the booth for so long. And I guess 2 people could work today as long as the personalities gel and as long as they have, terrific chemistry. I'm sure the chemistry is there because obviously they've been working together since 2016. But the problem is, though, as far as the personality goes, Jeff Gordon's all right, but I mean, he's not a Clint Boyer. He's not like, a Darrell Waltrip, like not even close. But I mean, he's still great to have in there, though.
I think when it comes
I think you look at fans.
Go ahead, Eric.
Oh, sorry. No, I think, well, you look at fans' reaction to Dale Earnhardt Jr. being added to the NBC broadcast. Dale Jr. is not polished at all. He came in there just shouting, shrieking, just took over the show, but people loved it.
Mhm.
Jeff Gordon came into Fox and was very polished, very presentable, and is boring as hell. He is the most boring broadcaster NASCAR has on either its main networks. And so I think there is something to it. I think Clint Boyer is a little bit of a loose cannon, but he does bring an energy to the booth. It's not going to look like a Formula One broadcast where everyone's really serious and it's very like high stakes. It's going to be a little more like laid back, fun, hanging out with your friends on a Sunday afternoon. But maybe that's really what NASCAR should go for.
And yes, F1 broadcasts are perfect. I was going to say that.
I'll say this: the best thing that I think Dale Jr. is doing for himself as a broadcaster is he is diversifying himself now. He's probably becoming the most improved in such a short amount of time that I've seen, and I would credit that to his work with Dirty Mo Media, and now he's getting into Twitch streaming, and that's just only helping him develop his talents and being more comfortable being on camera, in my opinion. I think for the longest time, I would always notice, like watching him in interviews, I would see a lot of uhs and pauses in his interviews, but now I just don't see that anymore. Like, he's really becoming a different person, I've noticed.
So I've got a couple of thoughts there, if I can jump in. One thing that I've really enjoyed about Mike and Jeff, the moments that I've gotten to watch, is that there is less of the moments where you can tell, no matter what they said, that Jeff was getting frustrated with Daryl, just because Daryl had been out of the car for 20 years. And even if he didn't say it outright, Jeff's tone pretty much said, "You stupid son of a..." No, that's
just
not
like,
what we're doing.
talking about.
So I think the conversations are a lot more fluid now. It's not as jerky. Whenever there was that moment where we all recognized that Daryl just wasn't as connected as he used to have been. But I do think that having Clint be a part of the Pro Invitational series kind of reminded us the dynamic that NBC has, because yes, absolutely, Dale is so energetic and he is so passionate, and I know that Jeff can be just as passionate, Jeff Gordon. But for whatever reason, it just hasn't translated to the broadcast, and I think they need that third voice to kind of pull that in. I would say, why not Larry? Because I think Larry has always been the perfect blend between being the analysis, analytics, numbers, but also just being fun. He is one of the most engaging, just fun NASCAR conversations in the sport. And I don't know why they haven't gone that direction for a 3-driver or a 3-person booth, rather. One other point I wanted to make in reference to what you guys were talking about, just the Pro Invitational series overall. My main takeaway from the entire past 7 weeks is I am very pleased. I'm very proud of the industry, the way they've kind of came together to support this, because there were so many elite level competitors who are so used to being the best at what they do. You think of Jimmy Johnson and his struggles. Clint Boyer did not take to this very quickly. Kyle Busch, he was getting good there at the end, but he had no experience really doing this consistently. And these guys bought in. They bought in for the fans. They bought in for their partners, for their sponsors, whoever, for their teams. And it was fun. I have enjoyed the past 7 weeks. I haven't totally treated it like the real thing, but I've covered it. I've bought into the storylines, and I am so grateful just as a racing guy that over the last 7 weeks we've had that kind of slice of normal to get us through from being down at Phoenix to where we're going to be this weekend doing Darlington.
One thing that I also really liked about this is just they like, it's like you guys have all been saying, they really hit that balance perfectly, right? Like, you can't treat this like a cup race. You can't. I know I think that was the reason we had such a bit of a rocky start, like the stuff with Bubba and a few of the other deals. It's just that some people were taking it too serious. The competitive nature took over, but it's like overall, it has been one of the most fun things. I've looked forward to race day again. Well, I always have, but during quarantine, I should say. And it's something that I can go on social media and see people who have never watched before. They're like, "Oh, it's an esports event? Why not?" I ran to a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in years. I was just running on the path, and he was riding a skateboard, and we're like, "Oh my God, it's been so long." And the first things he brought up, because he knows how big of a fan I am of my channel, is about iRacing, and he's wanting to get into it even though he's not a NASCAR fan. And that's the thing that's so cool about this, is that it's shown that you can do the same thing on this platform that people who are famous for driving in real life can do, and you don't have to break the bank to do it. You can really just be as close to the real thing as you want, and not have to, pay $1 million to get into, maybe a mediocre car. You don't have to go and travel around. You can do it at your house, and it's opening up a whole new fan base right now. And that's the thing I found, that's my favorite part of this whole thing, is seeing people who have had no interest in the sport now give it a chance because they've been innovators and using a platform that, and I wouldn't say even using, but almost mastering a platform that all of the other sports leagues really lacked, even when they tried stuff. I mean, like people playing Madden against each other, I think was on ESPN2, and it's like,
and 2K,
those didn't work.
And as much as I like to play those games against people, it's like I would never sit and watch somebody play it. But iRacing is so close and so much more competitive than those things that
they have a
you
way
can
to
watch
present
it.
it's a lot different.
Yeah.
And also, let's not forget about the unofficial events that took place. We also had, Landon Castle's event that was on NASCAR.com before Kyle Larson ruined it. It was a good event, and before Kyle Larson ruined it, it was a solid event. And shout out to Landon Castle. Yeah, and also, I was about to say Ryan Vargas' events too. And you know what? I know we're not
did an event.
I know we're not on iRacing, but on NASCAR we were able to pull some.
No, I was talking about Eric's event.
Well, and Eric's events too. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. Pickup Throwdown. That's been fun.
Oh yeah, Eric's events. The Truck Series too, and also he had Kyle Busch race in a truck on his channel.
That was Jordan Anderson.
That's the highlight.
That happened, but it was cool to see Kyle race with us. Yeah, that was neat.
That's the freaking highlight of his channel. Well, no, the Kenseth interview was the highlight of his channel.
No, Kenseth was definitely the highlight.
That's the peak right there.
Going back to what I was saying, it's a bit of normalcy in this terrible, just boring at best time, and at the same time, it's something that's good for the sport long term and opens it up to a whole new audience. So, I mean, if there's a silver lining, at least for NASCAR, it's how good they handled iRacing and esports in general in this time.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah.
And also, one thing I noticed with like all the iRacing stuff, like you always have those guys that are like always going off like, oh, I don't know why these guys race on iRacing. This is not competitive stuff. This ain't the real stuff. But then I'm watching the Martinsville NASCAR Thunder Series, and I see Donnie Leah in there. And Donnie Leah was going off on how, like, the NASCAR series. And I'm like, look who's in it now. Look who's a part of it now.
That's funny.
Even on the country side, you saw the naysayers sort of like Corey LaJoy didn't race the first couple weeks because he was like, nah, I'm not really about that. Eventually, he came in and took it seriously, bragging about his second-place Talladega finish. Everyone kind of bought into it.
Yeah. I don't have it saved on my computer, but if it shows up on here, I got the chart on screen. If it'll show up, I don't know if it will or not.
We can see the. Yeah, it's crazy that big shootout.
That's insane.
Yes,
it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, and I mean that's record breaking, man. And I mean that goes to all the promotion that went into it,
and
awesome.
And all of this stuff that's been going on. People have been losing their jobs, being put on layoffs. iRacing folks. They got salaries for a while.
They got paid, man. I wouldn't be surprised if they got bonuses like everyone there who works there probably did.
One thing I think could be really beneficial, and we're going to find out here pretty soon, is that while every other sport has kind of been on hiatus, and a true hiatus, no disrespect to, players playing the show or 2K or Madden, it's not the same level of participation because you don't have an entire roster playing these games. But NASCAR has basically had now a 7-week commercial on television leading into their being the first major, I say that loosely, major sport to return from the coronavirus. They've had 7 weeks to say, well, until we can return, we're going to do this. And then last week, I know the numbers weren't as high as the rest of the weeks, but then they had, hey, we're returning to racing next Sunday here on Fox. And I do think that's going to be something that translates to maybe not necessarily numbers, but some renewed interest from lapsed fans or maybe even non-fans in general. I mean, you guys had mentioned, I can't remember who had mentioned it earlier, but just the number of non-fans who tuned into this because it was different. It was something that was on. It was live competition. And there's an opportunity here to hook that kind of casual sports or entertainment fan and to get them to tune into Darlington on Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's an opportunity that NASCAR just can't lose.
You got them for 7 out of 11 days for a while.
Yeah, for a long, long time.
It's gonna be
Don't get
fun
that
as a
very
racing
often.
fan.
And there's also the possibility, like, over the course, perhaps this fall, hearing some rumors, college football might not even be. They might not play the season this year. And if that's the case, yeah, exactly. So that's the case. If that's the case, if that's the case, the NFL might move their games to Saturdays, leaving our playoffs on Sunday. It's a rumor, so I'm just saying the possibility of that.
Saturdays,
that's crazy.
One day and the weekend's open.
Yeah.
I know that the NFL isn't going to do that because the NFL's been putting too much hype into this season with what is Brady doing. They've had so many teams get new uniforms. They're playing. They're playing.
They're playing this year. Yeah.
And I think something came out today that they said that they're willing to lose as much money as possible to get football back on time. Moving teams from California out to the Midwest, moving New York teams out to I would say Pennsylvania.
That would be crazy. The NFL in remote cities. That would be insane.
Just playing on little high school fields or something.
There was actually a rumor that the Rams might actually go play in San Antonio.
Oh no! You need to ban them from the country for that uniform. Ban them from the country for that uniform, man.
Those are so bad.
I'll tell you what, the team that's going to be the team's going to be the most off with all this is the Chargers, though, because for the first time ever, they won't play in front of everybody else's fans.
Yeah, so now they're going to be like, what? We got a fan? Because at least the Rams have a little bit of a subsection of LA. The Chargers have no one. Nobody.
Well, I guess we can go a little bit into the ratings, too. I think that was just above 600K I'd watch. It was a lot lower than the other ones, but I think that mostly goes into the time slot.
I'll admit, I didn't watch it live. I watched it that night, which is what I would have preferred. I would have preferred if they did it at nighttime. I was busy doing other things. I was
prime time.
I was working on Saturday and then went kayaking Saturday evening. So
Yeah, it was kind of odd they didn't have it on Saturday night. Prime time. Nobody's doing anything. It was kind of odd to just kind of put it on Saturday afternoon. But I mean, still 600,000. That's still good. Was it the lowest? Yes, but I mean, on average, what was the average duration for some of these races? In terms of viewership,
maybe a million.
900,000. It was between 900,000 and I think 1.3 million was.
That's good. Then it's all about the averages. Then really, I mean, that's good. That's a W.
That's still higher numbers than most truck races, isn't it?
That's basically an IndyCar race. When you look at the ratings, if you want to compare the ratings, it's basically an IndyCar race.
I mean, here's the deal: if you would have asked NASCAR officials when they shut down in Atlanta 2 months ago, that if you told them we're going to have some version of a product that is going to pop a 1 million rating on TV every week to engage your fans, your consumers, at a time where all sports are shut down, people are confined to their homes, they would have taken that every single time. This was a huge win. Million fans, and that's just on TV. That's the TV number. That doesn't take into consideration people who are watching solely on Twitch or watching other forms of streaming. I mean, you could make the argument without me spitballing a little bit that 1.5 million were engaging with NASCAR socially, TV, Twitch over the past 2 months, and that is so valuable.
I mean, it was trending on Twitter, on all forms of social media, especially that first race with the great finish, and then a lot of great social media moments with Hamlin's daughter turning off the TV, Alex with the dog, all those memes. There's a lot of great moments that really, I think, just fit the format that everyone's kind of started. Everyone's in their house on social media, on YouTube, on Twitter, watching TV, and everything NASCAR did during this hiatus was kind of catered to that. I mean, that's really the only choice they had. But no, I agree. It was 100% a win. They could have easily just taken a huge L this entire hiatus. They could have just had nothing going on for 2 months. People getting laid off. That'd have been the only story anyone would hear. Instead, we had honestly a great success story. And I thought it was really cool. I think it was this past week it was revealed that like no money changed hands. Like there wasn't any sort of like contracts being signed by Fox and iRacing NBC. It was kind of just everyone like, hey, this is going to make all of our lives better. Let's all come together and make something happen. And of course, like Matt mentioned earlier, but the drivers all buying in, that was also extremely important. The drivers could have easily thumbed their noses up and just said, nah, I don't need to schmooze FedEx any more than I already have. I'm just going to take these 2 months off. No, they all bought in and made it a great show.
We've had I've noticed a few teams like John Hunter Nemechek. He got a new sponsor, Skag Equipment. I'm really thinking, I wonder if that might even be doing part that like a lot of people heard his name more during these events.
And also Landon Castle getting Emu, like I mean, and he's been making some select runs with Morgan Shepherd's team, and that team. Whenever they have the funding, they run inside the top 15, no problem with Landon behind the wheel. I'm just saying, Emu, like, you don't have to fund them for a full season, but come on, at least give them something out of pocket for some select races so they can run the whole thing. Give them a chance.
Well, it also helps that they made a big cut in their spending by dropping Bubba Wallace, too. So
Yeah, so you got plenty of money to burn now. Bubba offed himself, man, so you got plenty of money to burn.
I don't understand for the life of me. We were talking about Julia Landauer before the show started while you were playing the interview. I feel the same way about Landon Castle. Landon Castle is a huge missed opportunity for every single team that had a chance to do something with him. And I can't believe that over the course of the Larson incident, Newman missing time, that there wasn't at least a casual opportunity to get Landon Castle in one of those cars. Because if you think of it, he's 31, 32 years old. But he's got pretty much double the cup experience of anyone that's even older than him, just because he's been doing it every single week, all three divisions since he was 18 years old. And I remember a time when we had 43, 44, 45 car fields in the Cup Series. Landon Castle was the highest paid kind of independent driver because owners knew that they could get him in the show in qualifying. And I just do not understand for the life of me why someone still hasn't put him in a good car. I mean, you think of 2014, 13, when he was driving Johnny Davis's Xfinity cars. He had them in the top 10 pretty much every single week. And he is so good. It baffles me.
I think with Landon, he was given that deal with Junior Motorsports too early in his career.
2008.
Had that have been 2 years later after Keselowski left, I don't think they would have been in a situation where they fired Byers after a few races. That might have been a good time to bring in Landon Castle then, but it was just a little too early.
Well, no, what the confusing part is he won Rookie of the Year that year, and he was a part-time driver. So like after that season, you kind of expected them to kind of bring him back in the fold. He'll be a teammate of Brad Keselowski's entering 2009. But no, it never really happened.
Which is weird that he won Rookie of the Year, considering you also had people like Joey Logano competing that year.
Yeah, and then not to mention, fast forward 2 years later, like you just mentioned, they hired freaking Kelly Byers really out of nowhere. Doesn't even start the first race, and then as soon as he gets in the car, he's a wrecking ball disaster.
He had Auto Club and a good run at Bristol, and that was it.
I mean, and not to mention that was the season after Keselowski left for Penske. And 2010, when you really look at it, was basically that's one of Junior Motorsports' worst seasons. They only had just a couple wins. It wasn't as successful.
It's weird. They went from competing for a championship in 2009 to just not even having a driver who was running for it.
Exactly. And also, I have one final saying, too. I always have the saying, if you drove for BK Racing in the Cup Series, you probably deserve a better ride elsewhere. So, Landon, just for driving for BK Racing, you deserve
you're not
you deserve a whole lot more. Yeah.
You're not wrong, though. Look at people like, hey, they had Brudeman. He had a good ride for a while, got a win with them and 2 wins with them. And
also Alex Bowman and also Greg Golding. Greg Golding's really turned around his career. I really thought he should have stayed in the 08, but again, goes back to money. But I mean, it's good to see him getting an opportunity. And DeBenedetto, of course.
So one more note on Castle. I don't know if you guys know or not, but the reason it played out that way is he was actually funded by GM. And the reason that he did not continue on in the Hendrick pipeline or at JRM is he was primarily funded by Chevrolet. And in the aftermath of the 2008 credit crunch, Chevrolet started to evaluate how they were going to spend in NASCAR and elsewhere. And one of the things they pulled was actually their development driver budget. And that was pretty much 80% of Landon's financial backing.
Wow. It really, I didn't even realize
I never knew
that.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I didn't know it had ties that
makes,
deep.
Because
that
Landon,
yeah.
The thing that's amazing about Landon's story is that Landon has never came from a huge financial backing.
Yeah,
I mean, he has never had to. And actually, I can't even picture a scenario where he's bought a ride. Like, I don't think he's ever been in that position. He's never been blessed enough to be able to. So he's always been hired on the basis of his talent, including his tenure in the Hendrick pipeline, because he was a Chevrolet development driver. So he's just never had the money of his own to do anything. And it's always been based on sponsorship or factory backing.
And Landon Castle is like a great social media presence. Like, he has so many people following him. He has everybody knows who he is. Why doesn't a sponsor just come on? They see the talent. It's it's just so confusing how nobody's.
So the joke that I've heard, in the garage area, and it's kind of a common joke, and this is not meant to be taken literal, but the joke on Landon is that sponsors don't get him because he wears loafers. And again, that's a joke, but I think there's some element of truth to it.
There's some validity to it because he's
quirky guy. He's different. He's a different kind of dude, and I think that you've got to be a brand, a partner that aligns with his quirks, and we just haven't found. He would not work for Monster Energy. He would not work for Duralube, right? It would have to be something that fits his style, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, Intuit TurboTax on there, and he'll be good.
You just mentioned loafers, damn, but there's a loafer company out there, right? It's perfect.
Get Crocs on the car.
Yeah, Crocs. You know what I mean? Like something a little different. That would be cool.
Now that you mentioned that, Matt, about 2008, that makes a lot of sense for a lot of things. Ultimately, that was such a horrible year for the auto industry. Dodge eventually left just 4 years after that. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, now that I think about it, I can't remember any Chevy development drivers for many years. I'm only just now really starting to see them coming back. I think of GMS.
Well, now
they're starting to become kind of like a Chevrolet development program, and same with JRM. And then I don't really see much on the Ford side for developing. Well, now Haley Deegan kind of starting to see a little bit more.
Briscoe.
Briscoe, Tanner Gray.
But think of the last however many years, who has been the one company that has been developing a lot of people? Toyota, based out of Japan. So they're the one company who was able to kind of survive all that, and their racing equipment got better over the years.
Exactly.
You got to think. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was also going to say about GM. You also got to think that they had to close down Pontiac, Saturn, Hummer, and later on in the years they had to sell out Saab, and now they're having to sell out Holden. So it's GM's still showing that they haven't recovered yet. So I'm not really surprised to hear that they had to drop Landon Castle and drop their whole development program. But I mean, it was a compensation they had to do.
Yeah, that's crazy. You don't really think about that. You don't think about those things that much.
So really quick, we're almost at the halfway point. So let's see if we can get into what everybody else was thinking real quick with the poll, and then head into the lightning round.
Poll, the famous iceberg poll. How many people voted on this poll this time?
We had a bit more than usual, which is surprising. 4.1 thousand voted this week.
Now I can't wait to see the one next week for after the show, after the Darlington race. That will probably be a record breaker.
Danny's screen went black.
No,
the screen went black, Danny. Oh, is it back?
Yeah.
Oh, it's back. It is back.
Okay, it's good.
It just took a minute because it was hidden, so we're back.
Yeah, it never works, but now it works this time. All right, go ahead.
So we had a pretty positive outlook on this race so far. 69% of you thought it was great. Nice. 22% of you thought it was good. 6 said average. 1 said below average, and 2 said bad, which means we had a net negativity of only 3% this week. Which I think that's the lowest we've had so far.
Probably so.
I voted average just because I guess I didn't know what to expect, but at the same time it was I didn't really think it was anything too over overly exciting too.
Oh, I voted good just because they had North Wilkesboro. Just that alone just just makes it a good race to me because I've never seen one on TV until now. Well, at least a virtual one I've seen at least.
91% net approval with it so far. And a few of the comments, Carnation's comment was first always on my screen, said Denny will literally win anything but a title. Holy Jesus.
Basically. I mean, yeah, it's a cold hard truth.
And then Fish Production said something really cool here. He said, I don't think any of us expected to hear Mike Joyce say green flag at North Wilkesboro in 2020. Great of iRacing and Dale Jr. to put this together. Best race of all of the Pro Invitational Series, in his opinion. And then Caleb Leno, I think. Left the lyrics. Take me home, country road.
Take me home.
Oh, and this is for you, Danny. Doritos and Mountain Dew put Danny B missed last week, so I'll comment this again. And you put the lyrics to "This Ain't the End of Me." So there you
go. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Yep. This ain't the end of me.
Oh, the famous outro song.
We'll get that at the end of this episode tonight. Let's see. I'm gonna scroll.
This mic person.
What am I missing? What? I was just gonna. Read it if you want.
That's just funny.
My girlfriend's. We're gonna lose. We're gonna lose. I love, dude. That's from We're Gonna Lose. Oh my god. I ain't gonna read that, but go ahead.
Well, I don't love to me, but I'm gonna scroll down a bit, see what else we got.
Here's Peter Strata. What did he say?
Oh yeah. Read his off, man.
Oh yeah.
Danny, go ahead.
Oh, it's some song lyrics. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, it's not song lyrics. It's the ending to Iron Man.
Oh! That's like another kind of thing you add to the weird things we see. The very interesting things we see all the time.
The truth is, I am Iron Man.
Yeah.
And then Jeffrey Robertson gives us some good advice here. Listen to ELO, Don't Bring Me Down. Very good advice. I didn't get these loaded up. I'm gonna go see what our last comment is.
The famous night. Last comment.
I'm scrolling down.
Yeah, scroll.
We'll see how different it is. If it's the same or different. Because on mine, it's a guy called Jonas Stuff who says bad because Denny won.
Come on, there's a lot of comments.
Yeah, we usually get it between 300 and 600, give or take.
I think I can't scroll that fast.
Yeah.
The big part of it is, someone put "Take Me Home, North Wilkesboro." That'd be Denny Delivers.
Stoneheads, I'm seeing.
The thing that they added was responding to comments.
Okay, it's Jonas Stuff.
Okay, then but yeah, so that's the poll this week. We had a lot of people vote in it, and I can't wait to see how many vote this week, especially with what we have planned for next week's show, and it's gonna be fun. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for keeping the poll alive during this pandemic too, by the way. Not to mention that too. So yeah.
Well, we're at about the halfway point, I guess. Do we want to get into anything, or do we want to just go to the lightning round really quick?
Let me have a moment to just kind of thank those who have supported us tonight for Super Chat.
Okay.
All right.
We've had Jimbo Burrito started us out with a $5, and we appreciate that. He said, and we're underway with this week's edition of NASCAR Weekly Podcast. Hope all of you guys, including the chat, are doing good tonight. Jimbo, we appreciate that. We always love the love and support. Wayne Montgomery gave $1.99. Appreciate that. Can we bring Mr. Bestwick back to call races? We would love that. We would love that.
Yeah. We would love that, man. We've been trying that for like a decade now. Or no, since 2014 at least.
And speaking of old ESPN crew, I saw a tweet from Marty Smith today that he was Marty Smith, he was actually getting to do some kind of NASCAR coverage, and that's good.
So he was this morning on SportsCenter. He was actually at Chip Ganassi's garage covering like the story of Matt Kenseth replacing Larson in the 42, that sort of thing. I really think SportsCenter they're really starting to get behind NASCAR more as the years have gone on since they stopped. I've really noticed that, especially like towards the end of last year, they really pushed it more on there. Whenever they were talking
now
about
they're covering it because it's the only sport that's on.
Oh yeah, now they have no choice.
Now they have no other choice. We got you locked in now, ESPN.
one last
how
one.
the tables have turned.
One last one here, and then I got a question for Matt here. Corvette Racing 48. He said Landon Castle is super underrated. What about Castle's at 40? Extremely unlikely, though. Yeah, that is extremely unlikely. So,
Yeah,
but
I wish.
My question for Matt, going back to that ESPN comment, Matt, you being around the sport, around the media for as long as you have, what was your overall consensus on when ESPN left? Was there kind of like some negative vibes coming from any of that you remember?
Not the most recent time. I mean, it was very contentious. The first time they left, after 99, 2000.
2000, yeah.
Yeah, they had, I think it was Mike Massaro outside the track because NASCAR
it was, those days were awful. So, like, the way the contracts were sorted out with Fox and NBC for our younger audience is that only their employees and reporters were allowed to cover inside the racetrack. Meanwhile, the good people over at ESPN had to stay outside to cover and interview drivers. Like, that is disrespectful. You don't do that to ESPN. I'm sorry, you don't do that to ESPN at all. And looking back, that really affected the sport long term when you think about it. Because think about it, like the early 2000s, I can't remember one time during NASCAR's golden era in the early 2000s where ESPN really covered a race like on SportsCenter. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. I really didn't see that because like they couldn't get into the racetrack and really that affected them. But it's good to see them like kind of cycle back and, cover it again.
But yeah, so to answer the initial question about, when they left this most recent time, there was nothing. It was just for the most part, it was a lack of interest. They did not see a business model to support NASCAR, which is, again, the irony is that now they're the only sport going. So they're going to be all over it, as they should be. But that is cyclical. Everything in sports and sports media is cyclical. I would not be surprised somewhere down the road to see ESPN being a broadcast partner again. That's just how this whole world works.
I'm trying to tell them, man. I already had a video come out about that, man. So I'm 4 years ahead of schedule. Hopefully.
You know what's funny? One of my first few memories of when FS1 first came around, and they were, doing a lot of NASCAR stuff with FS1. One of the first things that I remember from that deal was Donovan McNabb being a host on some show, and he trashed NASCAR so bad. Oh, yeah. I'm convinced that eventually led to him being let go.
Oh no! So so when FS1 first started, yeah. So when FS1 first started, they tried to be like their version of like ESPN. So they had all of these like Sports Center type shows, and I guess McNabb was on there, and he started talking about NASCAR, how it's not a sport. And I remember watching that live and going, what the hell is this problem, man? Like what the heck? Like just out of the blue, out of nowhere.
Like that about ruined the Vikings transfer. That whole situation about ruined FS1's relationship with NASCAR, I think.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, his playing skill with the Vikings transferred to his broadcasting skills.
Yeah, and then having to deal with them as a Giants fan, I never liked the guy.
Yeah, wasn't too grateful.
They kind of turned that McNabb into a win for them. That whole McNabb incident, because didn't they bring him to a racetrack and make it a big deal?
They did, but here's the funny thing about it. Yeah, but the funny thing about it is, because I know this because I actually watched this race a couple nights ago. He was actually at Fontana 2005, so he was at a race before. So that's why I was confused. Like, why is he saying this stuff about, like, he's been here before? He's like, he knows what it takes. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like,
I mean, I've been to Fontana. It's not the nicest racetrack in the world. Right. Maybe he didn't love it.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah. But anyways, is it time for the lightning round, Jared?
I believe it is.
Yeah. So do your thing, Darren.
All right. Hey! I didn't break the mic. Wait, did I break the mic?
You broke the mic.
I did.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. Whatever. And once again, it is time for the lightning round on the NASCAR Weekly Podcast. Jared, what do we have on tap tonight?
We got a lot. I'm just trying to figure out what's the first thing I should really go into. How about people trying to bomb a speedway?
I'm calling his bluff. He didn't have any of that stuff he's talking about.
No, did you see the way he looked?
125 bombs he had. That's what he said.
No, 25 tons is what he said.
25 tons. That's right.
Hey, Danny, please tell me you can show his mugshot on the air. Please tell me you can show it. It's amazing. It's amazing,
I'll
man.
see if I can find it.
we don't want to give this guy attention. Come
No,
on.
no, we gotta give him all the attention. When you look like
No,
that,
he's in
when
jail
you
now.
yeah, when you look like that, I swear to God, man, like he was all cross-eyed. He was on something.
We will give him 15 seconds of fame.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Want.
anyway, a man was hit with a terror charge because he was threatening to attack the Darlington Raceway on a weekend that there were no fans. Shows his level of intelligence. The Arizona governor has vowed to open the state up for pro sports, though without fans, so that can open up the Phoenix finale. Kyle Busch is going to run the Xfinity race on Tuesday. Jake, you already know that's a win.
Oh wait, he's oh my God, I didn't even see that. Oh
Hey,
yes,
it's the one race where you can't be booed for winning.
You can't. Only his competitors can boo him this time.
Well, and then with the new Victory Lane procedures, I think it's only the driver is going to be in Victory Lane, and then everything else is going to be like call-ins and.
Wait a minute.
interviews
Wait,
like
hold
that.
on. So like,
So weird.
wait, so no crews, nothing like that.
I don't
In
think. I
Victory
think that's what they were saying. Yeah, and then they
And-
no
Oh.
celebratory reactions like high fives and
And
fist
I'm
bumps.
sure there'll
Well,
be like
yeah, that's
mask,
understandable.
Mask being worn during interviews and stuff. But
That's
okay.
understandable because I feel like in that case it's not about like, oh, they're gonna get sick, but like more so like like we have to show the country like like stay away from one
It's the
another
right
for now.
move.
That's
Yeah.
totally what it is. It's about being
Yeah.
the example to be set for the rest of the world,
Mhm.
because you have a chance to have the entire world watching. So even if these guys are confined to a tight space, you want
Mhm.
to send that message to the world that you don't do that.
Right.
Here's the guy's picture, by the way.
Yes.
Yes.
He's crazy. Look at him, man. He's on something, man. All right, get him off the screen, man.
All right,
I'm done.
All right, bye, weird man.
Bob. All right, go ahead.
Tommy Baldwin Racing is going to be running 5 to 7 races, including the May Charlotte race. So that's a new one. And Rick Ware Racing, it sounds like they're going to have a 5th entry.
They got
the
5
car.
cars.
They got it from Premium, so they'll be like sooner or later they're going to be half the field. Myrtle Beach Speedway is likely to close after the 2020 season, unfortunately.
That sucks, man.
BJ McLeod Motorsports is entered for a cup race in the number 78.
Mhm.
Where's the money team?
Money team. Right now, the money team.
They haven't ruled out a full season yet, but they're said easily could run 15 races this year.
Well, I've been waiting on Obica for 2 years now. I'm still waiting for them to update me. Are y'all coming back?
And then a little bit of iRacing news to end off before we start talking about the real life NASCAR stuff. The North Wilkesboro Speedway package and the 1987 Monte Carlo and Thunderbird have released an iRacing.
That's
so
gonna be so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, have they released or are they scheduled for release?
They're
They're
scheduled to
released.
release.
Okay.
Mhm.
And
That is
they're also doing
the reason I'm coming back.
they're also doing Fairground Speedway Nashville, and just having be so close to that now, having been and seen it a bunch of times, I'm like, yeah, I want to try the Fairgrounds.
But really quick, back to Myrtle Beach, just really quick. Like that track was so underrated. It used to be on the Busch Series schedule. Like honestly, those tracks from that era really gave the Busch Series its own identity. South Boston and Myrtle Beach and Nazareth. What were some other tracks, Matt, back in the day? Pikes Peak.
IRP.
IRP.
Hickory was still on the schedule.
Yes.
2000.
Mm-hmm.
Myrtle Beach is an iRacing. It sounds like it's going to have to live forever there. So.
Yeah, it's going to live forever there, too. Like, I'm just saying, like, those tracks really made the Busch Series what it was back in the day. And it kind of sucks. It sucks that it's just really unexpected, too. I thought it was thriving, but I guess not.
It was not thriving. And in fact, the current owner has been besieged for years because they want to turn that into apartments and industrial. And if you think about it, I don't know if any of you have actually been to Myrtle Beach Speedway.
No.
But it looks so out of place because everything has been developed around it. And this track has just stood the test of time.
Yeah.
And finally, you hear the number that makes sense and you finally agree to sell it. And they're going to probably bulldoze it within the next year.
Yeah.
Think about if you're going to Myrtle Beach. If you're going there, you're going because it's Myrtle Beach. The last thing on your mind is probably a race.
Yeah, and I mean it's probably it's one of those situations where it's like, the times have changed. NASCAR isn't obviously as big, and they haven't had a NASCAR sanctioned race there. Well, I mean, in the top 3 series since 2000, the very last year of like of the old television contract. So a totally different era. So not
probably not many people around the area really remember when NASCAR was there, so there probably wasn't that much fanfare left, I guess.
Yeah, and I do want to say one thing on Myrtle Beach. This is the first time in my this is not even my career, my life, just as a racing guy, that I'm going to have to watch a track get bulldozed that I'm personally attached to. I have so many good memories at Myrtle Beach, and I've been lucky enough that I did not go to Birmingham. That happened a little before my time. The track in New York, the dirt track where Super Dirt Week was. I'm from the South, so I really didn't get a chance to go to Super Dirt Week. So this is the first time that I've had to go through that, and everyone's got a story about a track they were close to that finally gets the axe. And me and a buddy of mine, Mike Neff, were talking about it yesterday, and he lives in Myrtle Beach. And I'm not prepared for this. I've never dealt with this before. It's probably going to happen a lot. Tri-County in North Carolina is going away. Concord in North Carolina is going away too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really concerned. I mean, I'm really mostly concerned if we're going to talk about like what we're concerned about in terms of racing the most during this pandemic, it's probably the local ranks.
Yeah.
More than anything, especially out here in Vegas too.
Well, I'm feeling the same thing. I've lived down the road from Rockford Speedway, and they're talking about selling it and having it torn down in the next couple of years too.
I mean, who's to say? Yeah, who's to say Vegas LVMS might not? I mean, they might get rid of the bull ring in the future. You never know.
And in fact, let me say this too. A lot of these promoters are trying to work out agreements with different pay-per-view providers, whether it's Speed 51, Dirt on Dirt, the Cars Tours streaming program, low-budget TV. There's so many different platforms out there. If you're a fan of grassroots racing, and this is a passion project of mine, but if you enjoy short track racing, you enjoy grassroots racing, I know money's tight for everyone, but a lot of these packages are being sold for the price of a ticket. So if you would have gone to a race at Hickory this Saturday, Speed 51 is going to broadcast an empty arena race from Hickory. It's their weekly program.
That's good.
251 lap, late model stock races, limited late models, local divisions. They're doing that for the cost of a ticket, $20. I know money's tight. I'm not telling anyone how to spend their money, but if you were inclined to go to a racetrack right now, think about looking at one of these pay-per-view packages, because this is a split revenue agreement. Half the money is going to go to cover the cost of the pay-per-view. The other half of the pay-per-view buy is going directly to the promoter, who no longer has a front gate. He's got a back gate, but this is going to replace the tickets sold, the concessions sold. So I would just encourage everyone, if you want to spend money on racing in some way, look at that, because that will help keep these racetracks afloat until they can open the front gate.
Yeah, go to your local short tracks if you can. If you can, go to your local short tracks when they reopen.
Support them in whatever way you can. If they have an online shop where they sell some kind of merchandise, consider buying some merchandise. Just help them any way you can.
Or even just if they have like some sort of donation link or whatever, donate like $5, even $1, something. Just donate something.
Yeah, because I know the track near me, near my school, Gresham Motors Sports Park. Like that track was about to open. I think they were gonna bring people in May 2nd, or either May 2nd or April 27th. I forgot which day it was supposed to be on, but they were gonna bring people into the track, and it was gonna be a big reopening over there.
Last weekend, May 9th.
Yeah, exactly. It was supposed to come back, and now they can't. They renovated that whole track, got that track all fixed up, practically nothing right now. And who knows if they're going to be afloat in a month's coming.
So they're still planning to do that race in August. It was a track rental. Speed 51 is renting the track from the Greshams, who have been reluctant to sell it for now. That race was postponed to August. They're still planning on doing it as of now the exact same way. But yeah, it's a very common story. A lot of racetracks who had big things planned, who right now they're having to figure out how just to get to that point. How can we get from May to August, September?
One last thing, I guess, with lightning round before we finish up. I didn't see much, but I read there's this thesis I saw on NASCAR fan identity. I think it was Cindy Yen, I think, who was the one who wrote it. And
what is that?
She did research on how NASCAR fans are perceived, or how they think they're perceived, and how non-NASCAR fans look at NASCAR fans. It's really interesting.
What was in it? Like, did you have?
Well, it was just about like I read a bit of it. It was like a lot of it was about how positively NASCAR fans are viewed. Some of the stuff NASCAR fans like. Do you hold back on telling people you're a fan of the sport, or how do people react a lot? And a lot of the time, fans, and I think all, at one point or another, someone has at least heard about or had it with themselves where they kind of hold back at first because of like how the way people will talk about it or judge them and stuff. Yeah. And I know for a fact, like when I was just, especially as kids, when I was a kid growing up, there were a lot of people who, I was the butt of every joke when it came to that. So it's
back in high school,
it's really, it's an interesting read. So
what's funny, like back in high school, I was probably considered a nerd for watching NASCAR. And now it's kind of funny that people who I was in high school with, they're like, it's kind of actually cool. You make money from YouTube talking about your favorite sport. And I'm like, yeah, you used to think that was really, think that was really weird back in high school.
It's funny. Back in high school, I did it all. Ran track, did theater, was in clubs, like or whatever. Yeah, dude. I love theater, dude. I love theater.
That's
dude,
the last thing I thought.
Dude,
I
did that as a freshman in college. I did some plays and stuff like that. Even tried some acting gigs, but that was a brief moment.
You strike me as classically trained.
Yeah. Then I started YouTube. And I was like,
out
okay,
the window
I don't have to do that mess anymore. But no, back in high school, the only thing people would get on me about, they would roast me so hard, is that you're a NASCAR fan. So like, that's all they would say. You're a NASCAR fan. I can't, like, that's it. Like, that's all they needed to say. And then everyone would just laugh like what the, like, why? But like, now it's funny, like Danny just mentioned, of course. Like,
yeah, it's always the common question. Why do you watch NASCAR?
I mean, it's just
always the common question.
Well, no, because
answering back, why do you not watch NASCAR?
Well, right, that's
actually part of what they looked at too.
Right.
I think personally, like, people get confused, especially non-NASCAR fans. They get confused in, like, I guess the culture around it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's predominantly Southern, that sort of thing. All that mess. And what gets forgotten is, the type of skill and, the endurance and everything that's involved in what makes NASCAR. I don't watch NASCAR because of, the quote unquote culture. I like it because I like watching guys in, race cars going 200, like over 200 miles per hour. Like, it has nothing to do with that. So I think that gets forgotten, is the art of, just the pure racing. Like, all the other BS around it really doesn't matter to me.
I just thought it was interesting looking at that study because it wasn't just how fans think that people react or how non-fans react. It was also like words associated, what stereotypes you associate with NASCAR. And it's funny because like I can relate to what all you guys said. Like in high school, I wasn't the butt of jokes, but it was definitely like I would on rare occasion wear my big yellow Dollar General Matt Kenseth jacket to school. I knew it looked silly.
No, dude, you deserve. You know what? I don't feel bad for you in that scenario. You deserve it. I'm sorry because you wouldn't catch me in high school wearing any NASCAR gear. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'd wear like the more like low key T-shirt sometimes because the jacket. Yeah, I knew I'd get comments, but you see it then. Most people. It was just reinforcing the stereotypes in the sense that people had the stereotypes they believed about what NASCAR fans were and what NASCAR was. And that's all that they would kind of regurgitate to you whenever you bring up NASCAR. So I didn't bring up NASCAR much in high school or really in college, but recently I did a project where I kind of talked about NASCAR and did like a presentation about the Daytona 500. It was kind of related to that. Doesn't really matter. But I thought it was really interesting. This is literally like 2 weeks ago. And afterwards, when I had to take questions from the class over Zoom, the questions were once again just reiterating the typical NASCAR stereotypes. Oh, well, it's mostly a white Southern sport, isn't it? Which is true. It's true. But when there's certain connotations that come with that.
It doesn't have to
be. Yeah, I think it's lost the fact that it has become more nationwide, worldwide in some ways. But it really is just people. I feel like their perceptions of NASCAR stopped in 2006 with Talladega Nights. I think honestly, since then, the general public, since Cars and Talladega Nights came out in 2006 or 2007, whatever year it was, I just think NASCAR hasn't been mainstream enough to change anyone's opinions.
It wasn't even like that back then, though. That's the crazy part about it.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting in that survey, though, or in all the surveys that were in that study, that like a lot of fans, it feels like, expect a lot of pushback when they reveal that they're a NASCAR fan to people. Whereas it sounds like non-NASCAR fans really aren't going to push back as far. I thought it was interesting. There was one graph that said like, how do you judge NASCAR fans? And it was like positively, negatively, or neutral. Almost everyone was neutral, but then there was a few positive. There definitely were more negative. Like it was like 15% view them negatively, 70% view them neutrally, and then it was like 5%, or my math is off on that, but something like that positively. And so there is like clearly a slightly negative stereotype or negative connotation in general in this country when it comes to NASCAR fans. But I think it's less than what maybe a lot of NASCAR fans expect. I think part of the fun for some people being a NASCAR fan is that they feel rebellious. You know, you're not a football fan. It's like, I'm a NASCAR fan, and none of these guys are. They all think I'm stupid, but they have no idea.
Yeah, they have no idea.
It's like a guilty pleasure.
So some of that I think isn't as extreme as maybe fans assume, but I think it is still at least somewhat apparent. And I thought that study kind of highlighted that.
That was one of the cool things when I decided I wanted to make a YouTube channel, and I was going to go up to the name DannyBTalks no matter what subject I decided to do it on. And I was debating on either wrestling content, NASCAR content, or fishing content. And I chose NASCAR content because I realized it is kind of rebellious. There wasn't a lot out there. When I started it, I remember there was... I was watching Griff Dog, and I was watching Eric, and not really many others besides that. Like Jake, I had his videos, but I didn't really know Jake. I just saw.
He was King Kyle Busch. Remember King Kyle?
Oh
Busch
no, I was Mr. Kyle Busch.
Or Mr. I'm sorry, Mr.
I was Mr. Kyle Busch.
King Kyle Busch.
Oh, King Kyle Busch is the other guy.
King Kyle Busch is somebody else.
Yeah, that's the other
he's
guy.
pretty cool. But we could do what Slapshoe said in the chat and said we must stand NASCAR like cake pop fans.
Oh, K-pop!
Crazy.
Oh! Gifts in every single thread.
Don't even get me started on those people.
Wish probably on the lightning round so you don't.
Oh, dude, that was the longest lightning round in history. And once again, that'll do it for the lightning round on the NASCAR Weekly Podcast. Jarrett, move on quickly because that was the longest one.
I know we're not here to it yet, but I have no clue how to pick this week.
Oh, I don't.
We'll get there.
We'll get there though.
And the weird thing is like we're gonna have to do like. Well, no, we won't have to do picks for Wednesday because we can do it Wednesday.
And also keep in mind too, no practice, no qualifying, so it's wide open. Honestly.
What's the weather look like this weekend? Is it clear?
It's perfect weather. There's only 10% chance.
But okay. You're telling me stuff is lining up for NASCAR for once, and luckily in weather.
I know, right?
Hey, listen to this though, and it's so funny because of how good that Kyle Larson did before all this happened. Matt Kenseth has a 1 out of 12 chance to get the pole award this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let's break it down how this is going to go. So, for your first Cup Series race this weekend, they are going to be doing it based on owners' points. And positions 1 through 12 have a group, then 13 through 24, so forth and so forth for the next 12 positions or whatever it is. And it'll be random draw. That'll be your starting position. And then they'll take the finishing order of the first race, and then they will take the top 20, flip them, so whoever was at 20th will now have the pole award for the Wednesday race, and then whoever finished dead last will start 21st, and then so forth and so forth. So, gonna be really interesting. And now that I think about it, we started this year off. Pocono was probably so happy, like, wow, we're gonna have a doubleheader weekend. We got this cool inversion thing going on.
Well, let me tell you.
And then here's Darlington and Charlotte. Like, allow us to take over.
Well, let me tell you what makes me the most happiest is not the way we're going to form the starting grid. It's the grid in general. 40 car fields in all 3 series.
Yes.
That is something I never thought I would ever see, at least for a very long time, especially the way the charter system is and the money that's, not necessarily around anymore.
Honestly, why get rid of it? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, at this point. Oh my goodness. Massive super chat. Too. It's from Josh, too. I haven't spoken to him in a while.
Josh.
Whoa, I got back to Josh. What's going on, dude? I got into real racing because of video games. I got into NASCAR for Bubba. I became a lifelong NASCAR fan because of Danny B, Eric, Darren, Andy Iceberg. Josh.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
awesome.
you, Josh.
We have had numerous conversations with Josh. You guys probably know this guy more than you really know. But I'm not going to get into all of his personal details because I don't know if he wants that out there.
I'll just say like he was like sort of the first. He was basically the first person to kind of discover the group and kind of try and help build this up.
He's helped
way
us
back
out.
in 2018.
He has helped us out a lot more ways you'll ever know.
Yeah,
and really appreciate the $50, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, man. But yeah, no, the 40 car fields, thank goodness. Honestly, and I'm with Danny, at this point, don't get rid of them in Xfinity and trucks. Just just have the limit be 40. Like, I really don't see a problem with that.
So,
Go ahead.
No. So here's the deal with that. Listen, I will call out NASCAR when I think they do something that's worthy of being called out on. And I think the responsibility that comes with that is when they do something that is just objectively good for the industry, for the sport, maybe not even in their personal best interest, they should be praised for it too. And when they were trying to work on the plan to do the field sizes for truck and Xfinity, they were planning on just cutting that off because, you've had a lot of competition this year to make the fields for those races, and qualifying was really exciting because you were sending guys home.
Right.
And NASCAR's original plan for trucks and Xfinity, where we were just going to send off whatever the cutoff point is, 36 cars, send the rest home, or just not allow you in. Mm-hmm. And listen, right now, given the current state of the sport, if you have teams that want to participate, that want to compete, and are actually trying to compete, they're not starting parks, and you're telling them that they can't, that's just a terrible message right now, given the current state of affairs. And they're going to take a loss on this. This is them paying out points and money that they probably just don't necessarily have, but it was the right thing to do. And it's so rare in NASCAR that the right thing to do trumps the fiscally responsible thing to do. And NASCAR chose the former in this case, and they should be applauded for it.
Yeah, I mean,
they were looking long term. Like you obviously this year are going to take a loss if you're paying out more teams here, but in the long term, I think they know that if they don't do this, there's a good chance a lot of these teams go away. And I think they want to maintain the health of trucks and Xfinity as long as they possibly can. But yeah, that was sorry I have to cut you off, Darian.
Oh no! I was just saying, like, yeah, I agree.
That's what I've noticed about this whole thing is I think they've handled the pandemic better than virtually every other major sport at this point, because a lot of their decisions do pay off long term. It's so weird to see NASCAR just as in general up at the top and all the way down working more for a long-term goal rather than what seemed like for a long time with the points changes, with the different little gimmicks here and there, seeming like more just short-term cash-ins. Like, so that's the thing that's really made, I mean, this whole thing has been odd, obviously, but that's what's made NASCAR's decision-making to me so odd, but at the same time really refreshing, is that a lot of it is long-term thinking and stuff that's going to help them not just in the immediate 7 weeks, but in the immediate, couple of years and moving forward from there.
I do like how this regime is willing to take risks. We saw that last year when it came to to some of the decisions they've made, especially the recent ones with like the next gen car. Now they have to delay that back to 2022 for obvious reasons. But I mean, other than that, there's still a lot to look forward to from them. I mean, the schedule changes next year, that sort of thing. And even in this case, though, I'll be honest, though, for a while, though, it just seemed like NASCAR just could never do anything right. It was always one bad move or one bad decision after another that would just bite them in the ass, for years to come, years down the road. But then, with the regime change, it's changed up.
To be fair, some of that was also just outside of their control.
Some of that stuff is, but I mean, the stuff that was in their control, some of that stuff back in the day.
We were talking before the Daytona 500, this is great, it's amazing, everything lining up perfectly. Right at the start.
It set the tone. It set the tone for it for 2020.
So listen, I am looking forward to Sunday and even Wednesday, because I think that the situation, the dynamic kind of sets itself up for two really good cup races. And I think Xfinity is going to be awesome, because right now this Xfinity package has been good, and it's been good for years now. But I think that what's going to make Sunday's race so awesome, and listen, I'm a big critic of this package, the low power, high downforce package, but I think that right now the dynamic of this race on Sunday will work kind of against the package to create a good race, because there's going to be no rubber laid down. This track has been virtually untouched since September. Right. And they're going to take the green flag with no track time, no practice. That track is going to be abrasive, It is going to be rough. There's going to be no, you're not going to have your rhythm, your routine down pat. And I think that's going to make for a really good race as the track transitions throughout the afternoon. And it is an afternoon race, 3 o'clock. The sun's going to be beating down on it. That's good.
We've got a high of 90 degrees that day too, so it's going to start off really hot.
And then you get to Wednesday's race, and it's going to be a short race. I have been an advocate for a long time. We could stand to shorten some of these races even down to 300, 350 miles. Yeah. And I know we all love racing. We all want more racing. But I do think every race suffers from that kind of mid-stage kind of lull. And for Wednesday's race, especially with the invert, you are immediately going to have to get after it. I think we are in store for 2 really good cup races on Sunday and Wednesday.
Do you think there's going to be a lot? Do you think it's going to be kind of a wreck fest, having literally no
That's
practice?
What I'm afraid of. The first lap, everyone just dives it in, and everyone just 20-car wreck.
A lot of these guys have been so used now, as bad as it sounds, they've been used to the physics of iRacing. They've been doing it, and now a lot of like Hendrick. I think the big reason they weren't doing the last iRacing is because they got back into some simulator time with Chevrolet, and Dale Jr. put out a tweet that said it's just R factor. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Like a lot of these guys may not be that comfortable in a real car now.
Yeah. I gotta tell you guys, I've been in the Ford simulator, and it's R factor, but that's the hardware. The actual simulator, the rig, it is so next level. Like, so you get into this room, and it's a full size car sitting on a rig, and you climb in the car. They close the door on you. They turn it on, and it's the full vision all the way around you. And it simulates every bump, every feel the G's. You feel the G's. And so I think that even though the software is just R Factor, it's iRacing, whatever their base platform is, the actual simulator they're sitting in is an actual car. The outside of the car is a full-size car. And they've got it to where it simulates everything. And I think it was very important for a lot of those guys who have access to the Ford, Chevrolet, Toyota simulator rigs, just to kind of get back in the habit of feeling the G's and feeling the bumps and the force back on the wheel.
That 1 week of getting prepared better, that might actually play a big advantage. Like the Hendrick guys might actually they start off really strong this season. They may look pretty good this week.
They might be 1, 2, 3, 4 maybe.
I want to go back real quick to something that you said, Matt, about the shorter races, and then as we're also doing midweek races, I think what's going to make the upcoming weeks and months really, really, like leading up to the playoffs, especially if the playoffs just go as normal, but what'll make the lead up to it some of the most like interesting long-term viewing for the sport is that we get to test double headers, midweek races, shorter races, and I think NASCAR, obviously you can't take the notes that you take from right now and have them directly compared to what it's like pre and post pandemic.
It's going to be so hard to tell because yes, it'll work all the time with no other sports and with no fans there, but with fans allowed, that's a completely different animal.
But I'll say if like they do a Wednesday night race when baseball is back in July and NASCAR does really, really well still with competition that is bigger than itself, I would say that right there would be something that they can take note of and be like, maybe we can add a few of these during the year, because I know they've been working to try and shorten the schedule, not have to conflict with the NFL as much, especially since the NFL is adding another 2 weeks to the season starting in 2021. And so that's something that I wouldn't be surprised if NASCAR does that and then tries it maybe 1 or 2 next year on the schedule, and it could, what could happen now could start or set the tone for what happens this decade moving forward.
Well, so actually, Matt might appreciate this comment I'm about to do. They actually do get the chance to compete with something that actually shares a fairly similar audience, because on Wednesday nights they will be competing with WWE NXT as well as All Elite Wrestling. Monday nights when they do the Truck Series, they will compete with Monday Night Raw. So they do actually get to test a little bit with something kind of like major related.
Yeah. So to me, it is so baffling. I am dumbfounded that over the last 5 to 10 years, that whether NASCAR, IndyCar, any sport, especially NASCAR and IndyCar, has not tried to do a single day show the Wednesday after the MLB All-Star game. That day is absolutely dead. There is no sports. ESPN Radio plays the charity programming. There is no live sports. I just do not understand why there is not a race from a local market.
Well, talking to David Land, IndyCar is not necessarily like up to speed when it comes to marketing their sport the best right now. But I mean, they're starting to work towards.
I would disagree with that.
Really?
Yes, because traditionally that's not true. If you look at the current group that's in there now, with Mark Miles as the CEO, and I don't know, Jay Fry, with Jay Fry serving as president. These guys are brilliant, and I think that right now IndyCar is in the best hands they have been in a long time. Now, if you told me that 5 years ago, when you had Randy Bernard, formerly of the Pro Bull Riding Association, serving as the director of competition, and you had who else there? You had
just another random
Derek Walker. You had Derek Walker as the director of competition, making up rules left and right on the spot. IndyCar looked like clowns. And I say that with no regret. They look like clowns doing the standing starts. We're not capable of doing standing starts, crashing every single time they did. The big crash, they had the inaugural IndyCar Grand Prix at IMS. But this current group, they are savvy. They get it. And they've only been in charge now for 2 or 3 years collectively. But I'm surprised that even then, within that 2 to 3 year span, that they haven't tried to run a race at a place like Iowa, or even doing a race at Kentucky or someplace close to home on a Wednesday night.
What you just said, I completely agree with. I'm talking about in terms of like sort of the social media presence. Like, for example, there was this test they had at Circuit of the Americas, and I think potentially it was doing like similar numbers to like a random NASCAR test stream, like similar numbers. It was unlisted though, so like nobody really got to see it without a link. And David Land was screaming on Twitter, "Yo, make this public!" You know what I mean? Like, and I've seen certain problems with them, like from their Twitter, their Instas, and even their YouTube channel, which like now they're starting to pick up. But there was a long time it was just, oh, we'll just throw recent race highlights on there. We're not going to show old races. We're not going to make any sort of other content. You know, they're starting to get better though. But no, like the competition directors and like all that stuff within the sport, like that's definitely improved.
There are some within motorsports that like they are beginning to take in new levels of social media. I had a conversation a couple weeks ago with someone with Dirty Mo Media. We won't get into names or anything, but I informed them of something that I saw during one of their Ask Junior streams that kind of it went under their radar. These guys know what I'm talking about. It went under their radar, and I just told them, I was like, listen, you guys are doing great stuff, but you need to get some moderators involved in this stuff more.
Oh yeah, NASCAR too.
You're missing some things here.
Oh my goodness, it is so bad. It was bad.
Really quick, we do have one other story before we start talking about the race this weekend, and it has to do with actually another NASCAR track. So this week we found out that Chicagoland, Sonoma, and Richmond were the tracks losing dates, which means Chicagoland and Sonoma will not have a Cup race this year. Chicagoland won't have any racing this year with how strict Illinois has become.
And I'm not gonna say that they're the only ones that'll end up doing that too.
And also,
but anyway, there then came out some government documents from the city of Joliet about plans for that area. Some of them were like the ones that it actually ended up being for now. Are just that certain areas that the track owns will be bought up and redeveloped and used for something else since they don't need as much parking anymore. Others was a picture of the Chicagoland Speedway basically half covered because I remember distinctly where it was because our spot that we usually stay at was covered in it, being like somewhere just to have development with. So I guess I want to get your guys' opinions on this. And then the thing that I saw was for now is the thing that gets me worried about it, just because I don't know how many of you guys have experience in Illinois or not, but I don't like the way that Illinois is run, and I don't trust politicians, especially in general.
Oh yeah, I don't trust
from
them
Illinois.
No,
they're not
just anywhere.
Well, they don't have the greatest track record. Look at our governors. We have more governors. We have more governors making license plates than we do.
Yeah, I just watched the Netflix series on the last one. He had the super long last name. He was arrested or something. Yeah, him. He's out though. He'll be back. I lucky like him. He's funny.
So let me provide a little insight there. So I can tell you guys, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they're kind of trying to deal with the public fallout of this a little bit, and nothing's totally decided yet. I mean, there's going to be a town hall type deal here in a couple of weeks that will kind of further detail some of the strategies there. That track is not performing well. I know we've had 2 really good races there from an entertainment standpoint, and I don't know if that's the new normal with the tire wear and how abrasive that track has become, maybe. But they've struggled to get people there for a long time, and they've tried making it the playoff opener, a summer day race, summer night race. They've tried doing everything they can, and that goes to show you how desperate NASCAR was to make that work and to do it in a way that worked. And I think that we are getting close to the point to where if the right business proposal is presented to NASCAR, that track could get the axe. They want to find a way to get nearby. I say somewhat nearby. Gateway is, I think, a 5-hour drive from Joliet. Gateway is doing a lot of really good things. They've got the title sponsor, WWT, Worldwide Technology. I do not think that Chicagoland is long for this earth, and it's not official. It's not final, but where there is smoke, there is absolutely fire.
And that's what I was.
Gateway would be a fun show, I think.
That would.
But what you're saying is exactly why I was so just because I've went there every year for 15 years. When you were talking about tracks that you're attached to, getting demolished, that's like where I was in that mind. I know it's definitely a different scenario with that, but it's like I've noticed every time they make a change, as much as they're trying to make it better, it only speeds it up worse. Like as much as people liked it being a night race back from, I think it was 2008, 2010, I can say people at the track, especially in the infield, hated it. Just going around talking to different people in there, they hated it. And then when we moved it to the playoffs, like some of the races were really good and they had some good moments. What people forget is like, because Chicagoland, the infield loves to party. Like I remember at one point in I think 2006 or 7, Tony Stewart put it in the same conversation as Talladega. I mean, it was that crazy at the time in certain parts of it.
Well, you had the video clip last year where they were still riding around the Ferris wheel with a severe thunderstorm coming in.
Yeah, but it's the atmosphere around the track really lost its way when they moved it to the playoffs, because moving it to that 3rd week in September, 3rd, 4th, whichever it lined up on the calendar as, that's right when it cools off a lot in Illinois. So at night it's like 20 degrees. Everyone's just inside. It was unbearable the first year because it was between 20 and 40 degrees the whole weekend, raining. It was just nasty. And you see, if you look at overhead shots, you can see it. And I know that the TV money is saving it right now, but I know as the restructuring and stuff is moving around, it's something I think in 2018, after that race, I even said like, okay, we needed this race because the Speedway's in trouble. I mean, the stands are not even close to half full when you're there in person. Yeah. It's terrible because it's been putting on really good racing, especially in the Gen 6 era. 2017 is an outlier for being a dud.
What's funny about that? Well, I mean,
bad
it's not
with the city too. Really quick. One last thing. The city itself is like it's almost completely distanced itself from the Speedway. I know just going into the city to get stuff when we're in the infield and just driving out, there's some promotion, but I mean, some like on the main road to drive there that we go to off the interstate, the newest thing is an old 2012 Brad Keselowski Miller Lite sign. That's like the newest promotion I've seen in the city.
You're right.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah, and it's the closest gas station to the track.
Oh, that sucks.
I think that's kind of like that
it's on the wall.
It's like that more than you think. Even Bristol Motor Speedway, as big as it is, I think the biggest advertising that I really see for it in the state of Tennessee is on the back of a Food City semi-truck.
You know what's funny is actually Vegas, they promote the race like all week with like the cars on the strip and stuff. So Vegas is perfect with one of the races. They do that with the whole strip thing with the playoffs. But I was really curious to see how some fans would take this news. Like what I mean by that is like how they would take it is some fans understand, the business side of NASCAR. Others do not. So when some saw the news, I see some tweets going, well, they had 2 amazing races the last 2 years. Like why is it shut? I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? Like that has nothing to do with it. Like that's like Jared just said. Yeah. Nobody's going to the racetrack. The city's basically like disowned it at this point. There's no promotions going on.
Half empty at this.
Well, the infield, it was sinking. It was sinking. Like that says it all right there. It was sinking.
They haven't renovated a lot of the tracks since its opening. I mean, like Darian was saying, last year when it rained, we had to leave because if we hadn't left, our camper would sink into the mud and we would have to get like towed out. Like it happened to us in 2014. Sad. It happened to us in 2018 because it rained right after the race. I mean, and when you compare it to Kansas Speedway and you see the renovations that Speedway's made, it's night and day difference.
Yeah.
I mean, we were considering one or the other driving to Kansas 8 hours away or Chicagoland just because Kansas would be a better spot to stay at. We wouldn't have to worry about being stuck in the mud.
And that's the thing
that we should. It's funny you mentioned that. I've had to get towed out of Chicagoland twice because my parking is right outside the infield gate. I don't get to park
grassy
inside.
Area, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Twice. This is the legacy. This is the legacy of the golden era. Like now, these tracks that were built during the golden era, like where instead of honestly, the smartest thing to have done back in the day, and this would have helped them out long term. If you want to build new tracks in different markets, fine. But at least build tracks that, have a balance between profitability and great racing, because that's basically like what it all comes down to.
Well, I hate to cut you off.
No. Go ahead.
I appreciate your point, but I don't want to lose this moment. So again,
all right, no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
What happened to all of these facilities that pretty much changed the entire game is the idea is we can have NASCAR and we can have the IRL. And the moment that the IRL could not go to all these tracks, it cut off half of their revenue, their intended revenue. And so now NASCAR is saddled with tracks that aren't necessarily the best representative of their product.
Wow.
But the trade-off was, okay, well, we can have races there, but we can also bring in IndyCar. They have a good show. And now IndyCar only goes to Texas.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the entire reason they built all of these tracks to that identical spec is that could have both.
Well, that was a big reason for Nashville Super Speedway too. They wanted it to be a NASCAR or IndyCar thing, but what happened? No one was that interested. They couldn't even field a 50,000 seat capacity seating they had there, and it's horrible.
Wow. And Chicagoland and NASCAR tried to compensate too when NASCAR got moved to the playoffs. For a long time, Chicagoland actually had 2 NASCAR weekends. They had their traditional one in July that they'd always had, and then they had the one in September. They just had a lot of times it was just Xfinity, but it'd be Xfinity and trucks, I think it was at certain points, as well as ARCA might be sprinkled in there too.
IndyCar was there till 11.
Yeah, now that I think about it, like Vegas was built during that era too, and it's honestly one of the only still successful tracks because they hold a bunch of events from EDC, that sort of thing.
And Vegas has become a sports city too.
Yeah, it's a sports city too. Like honestly, the racetrack, it's not by the Strip. It's basically in North Las Vegas, which is only like 10-15 minutes away from the Strip. But I mean, people around here view the track as part of the community. Even if they don't watch racing, they'll still head up there for like EDC or for like something else like that'll take place there. But yeah, looking back when the track first opened, now that Matt pointed it out, they did have IndyCar there. I think their first year, I think 97, they had their championship race. Tony Stewart won, I believe. either 97, 96 around there.
Well, and that's a great point, though, Darian, about other events at the track, too. Chicagoland, from what a lot of people in Joliet have told me, it's a one weekend thing. That's the only weekend it really makes a bunch of money.
And it all comes, and it really comes down to location when you really look at it in that scenario. When you look at putting together these marquee events other than racing, that'll get you a ton of streams of revenue for your facilities. I mean, it's kind of hard to sell Chicagoland. I mean, like you said, the track's falling apart, and also the location. And it's about 45 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you can barely see it from the Sears Tower on a clear day, though.
Yeah,
it's within eye shot, technically.
Yeah,
that was actually one of the things that was really cool. Actually, when I went to the Sears Tower, was that they had that in there. I don't care what it's called now. It's a Sears Tower.
Yeah, Sears Tower always.
But they had something in there like you can see X amount of miles away, Chicagoland. But I mean, I think that was put in there in the mid 2000s.
That's when it was like, yeah, it was like, hey, we have to have that in. But
I'm glad for now that it's staying on, because I really do think the track has come into its own, and I think the racing has gotten a lot better. But I will not say that I'm thinking 3 years down the line that it's still safe by any means.
It's my favorite mile and a half track. By the way.
When we had troubles sinking into the mud and we had to move to a different spot this past year, we talked to a few guys from the ticket office, and a few of them were saying that, yeah, we got this year and then next year, and after that we have no idea what's happening. We have no idea what's happening because of the realignments, the shorter contracts. And that was the thing right there. That's why I was like, in my mind, red alert, red alert, red alert.
That is scary. Like, Chicagoland Speedway is one of my favorite tracks to play, but no, like, this is a bad deal. Go ahead.
My hope, best case scenario, I don't think that you're going to see it on the Cup schedule next year. I really don't.
Yeah.
Barring a scenario in which, because of the coronavirus shutdown, they weren't able to finalize some of the new places they wanted to go to, like a Gateway. But I don't think you're going to see it on the Cup schedule next year. My best case scenario is give me that IndyCar Xfinity doubleheader. IndyCar trucks, do it there too. If for no other reason, selfishly, I think it would be a great IndyCar race, and I really want to go back to Cemento's Pizza.
So
it is worth mentioning, though, just like the land, like on those charts, all that development stuff, the land, all the hazard areas are being bought by NASCAR, or at least are being bought by a NASCAR investment group. So it's not like it's not guaranteed now that they're going to sell all that to somebody else. It is NASCAR or people associated with NASCAR that are looking to control the land. So either if they do get rid of Chicagoland Speedway in the coming years, maybe NASCAR is going to use that as some sort of other hub. I don't know. But that's the only reason I was at first. I saw a lot of people saying, oh, yeah, Chicagoland Speedway is done. And I know about all the struggles financially it's gone through and how it's not really, it's not thriving. But when I see that, I just wonder, like, this could be, one of y'all mentioned earlier how they've moved it around the schedule to try and rejuvenate. I almost wonder if this is their last ditch effort to develop the area around the racetrack, try to turn that area, less than an hour outside of Chicago into kind of a destination to try and pull some more fans out there. And if this fails, which I know there's a pretty big investment up front if that's indeed what they're doing, so it's risky, but if this fails, this would probably be the last ditch effort for Chicagoland. But you might be right, Matt. They might be bailing, it might be leaving the Cup schedule, and maybe we'll just get lucky and have a Xfinity or truck race, maybe a IndyCar as well.
But if the Cup Series left, would they they would have Xfinity and truck races still there? Like,
they would. I don't know if they would.
I could see that happening. Honestly.
So would you do this? Would you, if this happens, would you reduce Chicagoland and upgrade Iowa and give them a Cup Series date?
I would go for Gateway over Iowa.
Well, because Gateway hits still a similar audience because of how close to Illinois still is.
Yeah, and
there's actually a good. That's one thing that, while I didn't grow up with too many other than family NASCAR fans around, if you go through Illinois, there is a small but prominent amount of NASCAR fans through that area, and if you get a good track, look what Gateway. And I'm not meaning this to slander or to punch at IndyCar, but you look at the crowd that IndyCar can get for that track. I do think the Cup Series can do better, and I think they can put on really good racing there. I go back to Kansas again. Kansas being there it was so different than being at any other track I'd been to until Daytona because of how much they've built around it and how you're in the city and you're driving through the city and Kansas is right there. You know, and they made it part of the city. They've built around it. And it's just, whether you're a race fan or not, it's a fun place to be. You go to Chicagoland, and I love the Speedway to death. I do. It's one of my favorite speedways. It is probably the one that I have the most attachment to because I've grown up basically going through there every summer. But there's nothing around it. I mean, it's just fields. I mean, they have the drag strip, and I hope nothing happens to that either. But there's really nothing around it. And you go just a few miles down the road into the city, it's not the greatest of cities either. Not to say that if it was in Rockford, because I know firsthand Rockford isn't the greatest, that it would have been any better, but it's a very interesting situation, and especially when you look at the history leading up, it's a big what if that I look at. But yeah, I am definitely nervous about this one just because of the attachment that I have to the track.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's not off the schedule. I mean, I mean, any track that gets demolished or taken off, like I feel sad inside. It's like, no, let's just have racing everywhere.
It would be kind of weird though if it goes away. The last few Cup Series moments are Alex Bowman's first win and Kyle Larson choking 2 times.
Yeah, that's the funny part about it. When you think about it, Kyle Larson choking in both those races.
I'll tell you what, being at that 2018 race was exhilarating. Like just watching it because
I wanted to be there. I wish it was.
It was insane.
It'll be insane.
We can talk about that though after because we still got picks to do tonight.
Yeah, we still got picks, man. We got actual picks for real picks this time.
Again, I don't know how to do this one, but
so basically this is weird. So no qualifying, no practice, and again, qualifying is just going to be like randomized too. Also, so you don't know who's going to be fast.
Also, something we haven't really even discussed. It's going to be weird watching not just one but 2 Darlington races with no throwback schemes.
Right.
That's right. Yeah, the last time we watched Darlington without any throwbacks was 2014 when they had the race in May.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember one of the last times though in May of who the winner was, Eric? Do you remember who was the winner like around 2013 or so?
Yeah.
Kenton.
He's muted. I can't hear you.
Yeah, you're muted. Microphone.
Oh, there we go. My bad. No, I remember who won. Who could forget?
Yeah, Kenseth, of course.
Just some guy that was on Out of the Groove.
Yeah, recently. Yeah.
So, all right, who wants to roll off with it? Who wants to start with our stuck picks?
I'll start it off, and Eric's going to hate me for this, but he just hasn't had enough experience that he's just climbing into the car with no practice. It's going to be Matt. I'm sorry, dude.
Wow, just like that. Damn.
But I think
that's a safe pick.
But I do think he will actually do better in the second one. Yeah. But the first one, I don't think it's going to go good.
Oh, yeah. I expect him to finish 25th this weekend. No, I actually do. Like, I genuinely think he's going to finish 25th.
I am going to go with Austin Dillon. You can never go wrong with your suck pick being Austin Dillon. Nothing personal, but oh my God. It's just Tyler Reddick was showing him up the last time we went racing at Phoenix, though. I'm just saying that I have remembered for a while. So Austin Dillon, I don't know if he's going to do too good coming out of the gate at least.
I'll go next. Oh. This guy's going to do good for the first, how many laps is this race? What, 294?
300, right? I thought it was 300. Right?
He'll do good. He'll do good until 10 to go and have a flat tire and finish 21st because that's what he's been doing all year. Ryan Blaney.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Poor guy. He's so good fast.
He's good. He's not great.
He could have won the first 3 races. Legitimately could have won the first 3 races, but something happened, man.
Yeah.
All right, so I got some.
You can say that for Elliott too. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I got a little bit of reasoning behind mine because I think this could play into a little bit of a strategy where like a guy like the battle for 20th, I feel like it's just going to be just as good as the battle for first place because that's going to be the battle for the pole position. So that's who I'm going to pick who's going to suck because they're going to suck on purpose.
That's
Clint
right.
Boyer. Clint Boyer, I'm going to say is going to suck on purpose because, well, his motivation is not going to be so high. So he's going to be like, I'll just settle back for 20th, get the pole for the next race.
So basically, he's just going to troll the whole race like he did in the Pro Series.
I didn't think about that. That is going to be an amazing battle because whoever finishes 20th, you get the pole. Whoever finishes 21st, you get dead last.
Yes.
Why did they make it like that? Why did they make it like that?
That is crazy.
Yes.
That is going to be crazy. Wait, who's next? Matt? Or is Matt next now?
If you
I
even
can
want
be.
to.
So the way this works, I pick a pick to win and a pick to struggle. Is it-
So we do a suck pick the first round, a dark horse the third round, and then a win pick for the final.
That was a lot of picks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do.
I'll simplify this a little bit. I'll give you guys a winner, and I'll give you guys a struggle concept.
Okay.
I think the winner is going to come out of JGR. Just a gut feeling, 11. But I think that you could probably pick any of those guys pretty equally. They've got a good notebook there with this current package. They were good there last September with the 21, obviously. But I feel good about the 11, but you can go any direction there. I think the Penske cars will be a little below that scale because they've had the early speed this year, just pound for pound. As far as struggle, the ones that I think will be kind of a surprise initially, especially because they've been so resurgent, 2 months ago, the last time we raced, the Hendrick cars. I don't think the Hendrick cars will be as good here because the thing they've done better this year is they've changed their approach and in practice, especially the way they acquire data. They've overhauled their entire race weekend approach. And I think without the practice session, that's going to come back to hurt them a little bit. I think they're going to be better on Wednesday once they've got a chance to look at the data with their new car too. They've never taken this new car, the new body, to Darlington. But I think for Sunday's race, the Hendrick cars will not be as good. It'll be a battle between the Penske and the Gibbs cars.
But at the same time, I guess we have seen some races like Auto Club where it seemed like the 88 just unloaded off the truck really strong too. So just be
Just out of nowhere. Yeah, it can go either way. Yeah. So what's next now? Underdog picks.
Well, no, Eric.
Yeah,
Eric. Yeah, that's right.
I
Eric.
kind of was agreeing with you with Kenseth earlier. I mean,
Okay. So yeah,
I'm not super optimistic. I genuinely think he might intentionally drop to the back on the initial start. I'm not sure if he will, but I wouldn't be shocked.
Honestly, that seems like a Matt Kenseth thing to do.
He
Honestly,
just needs to ride around, I think.
He already sucks at restarts historically, and he's one of the most conservative drivers in the field. I just wouldn't be shocked if he does something extreme. He might not. He probably won't, but he could.
Yeah.
That would remind me of like back in the day when they had the top 35 rule, so that people would just go all out with their qualifying setup. I remember like Dave Blaney, I think, did that at New Hampshire one year. They just like start out fifth, go for a while, and then just drop straight to the back.
Yeah, I think that happened with Patrick Carpentier at New Hampshire. Oh wait, started on the pole and then immediately dropped outside of the top 10 in the first 10 laps. I think
There were like 3 or 4 that race, but we should probably move on to our dark horse picks.
Yep, dark horse picks. Okay, so I'll go first. Well, actually, no, Danny, go first. It's your channel. That's
All right. A dark horse pick. Matt was talking about how the Hendrick cars might struggle here. I kind of agree with that. However, the one person I think will do fairly well is William Byron over the last few years at Darlington. It seems like the 24 car has done fairly good for the most part. He got the pole award. What was it, last year? He got the pole award for it.
Mm-hmm.
And plus he's coming off a lot of momentum from the Pro Invitational Series. So Byron would be a good option to say as an underdog for this one.
I'm just going to go with Ryan Newman just because, I mean, statistically, this is his best track. Average finish of 11, 12.1, somewhere around there. So he's been racing here consistently for a couple of decades now.
Has he won here before?
No, that's the thing. He's never won here ever, but he always runs inside the top 10 here. It's basically a guaranteed top 10 for him throughout the season at this point. But he's my underdog just because it'll be his first race back. We're not going to know exactly how, healthy he is. I mean, it's good to see him back at the track, but I don't know if he'll be 100%, once the green flag drops. Might do what Kenseth might do and, just drop back.
I don't know. I haven't really seen much about this. Do you believe Chastain would be there just in case he's not feeling good out there?
I don't know. I don't know if he would because his time there's up, but I would see maybe somebody being there as a relief driver just in case.
I have to think this is something that hasn't really been discussed a lot because they are taking temperatures and because of all that. They probably have to have a few reserve drivers just in case this weekend.
Well, yeah, that's probably the smart way to go. I would assume that probably every single one of the big teams at least has their Xfinity drivers on standby, just to get in the car just in case.
So that's one of the reasons why they are doing Darlington and Charlotte because it's such a quick little drive.
Yeah.
Every team has a contingency plan for drivers, for engineers. There is a backup list.
Okay, cool. All right, who's next?
I could do. I know my internet might be cutting out a little, so I can try really quick. I'll just put in Ryan Newman also.
All right.
All right, yeah, I'll say mine. This guy ran great in the Southern 500 when I was at the race. Like, honestly, like he was up front like the entire time. Actually ran great, had a great car. I forgot what happened because we had to leave like mid-race because my sister was starting to get tired.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say Kurt Busch is the dark horse pick here because he's always been good at the track. He almost won in 2003 by that much. So I could see him like running up top 5 like the entire race because this is his track and this could be a possible win for him.
For me, it goes back to just Newman. Newman is the ultimate underdog in every definition of the word. I was thinking that from the start. You guys started talking underdogs. I think that we're going to talk to him tomorrow. There's a press conference with him, and we're going to get a better idea of what his current state of mind, his health, his regimen, the backup plans. So without having talked to him yet, I still think Newman, he's so great here traditionally. He's got a great feel for the track. I do think this package is suited for him because, there's the reputation he has of making himself hard to pass with a car that's already hard to pass. You give that man track position with this package at this racetrack, I think he could have a hell of a first day back.
The man knows how to block if he's got a position, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
Newman's a good pick. I'm going with Matt Benedetto for my underdog. I think he finished top 10 last year in the 95 car at Darlington. So,
He does
good.
He does really good at drivers' tracks. That's true.
So I think Matt Benedetto, if he counts as an underdog, which I think he does, that comes in the playoffs for
might as well. Until he makes the playoffs, he's still an underdog.
He's been a top 10 driver so far this year, though.
Yeah,
he has, though.
Fired off good. That's another reason I think he's going to have a shot at top 5.
We got another guest here with Matt.
We do. Let's go Tinks.
Another cat. How many cats have we seen on the show? Like what? Like a dozen now?
That one looks a lot like mine too.
It does. Like kind of, sort of. Yeah, sort of.
Oh, man. We go to winner picks now.
Yo, wiener picks, not winners picks. Wiener picks. Wiener picks.
For
Darlington.
I will go first with this one. I'm on track with Matt here. I think it's actually going to come out of the Joe Gibbs camp, and it's going to be a guy who's had a lot of good runs here over the last few years. Martin Truex Jr. will get his first winner this year.
I'm gonna go with the Joe Gibbs driver too. It's gonna be Denny Hamlin. He always comes in clutch in these big time events, which is why it's very frustrating. He doesn't have a championship up to this point yet, and I hope he gets one soon because he deserves it. But no, he always he's had success here in the past too as well, winning a couple Southern 500s. And again, these cars coming right off the hauler onto the track to race, no practice qualifying. It's going to be up to how much work you put in the shop during this time, and also, just straight up driver's talent. And Hamlin's one of the most talented drivers in the business, so Hamlin's going to win.
Well, my pick, I'm going to kind of go against you guys a little bit. I think that one of the driver I'm picking is going to kind of defy the odds and the way that that the seasons went so far. This guy's always been, as he's been driving the last couple of years, he's been the best guy in his team. And I think with NASCAR coming back at this point, I think that this one's going to be something that's going to be really memorable. I am going to go with the popular pick, and I'm going to go with Chase Elliott to win this race.
It is one of the first places he won it in the Nationwide Series, so that's a fair.
Oh, I remember that win too. Came back from 6 in 2 laps to win.
It's like that
Captain restart.
Mm-hmm. That was great.
The one where it's like, oh, you saw me beat the Cup guys in the Xfinity Series, and then it comes to, I think it was Texas. Want to see me do it again?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was originally going to take Martin Truex Jr., but I kind of feel a little bit different. Because the original reason why I want to pick Martin Truex Jr. is because he hasn't been racing the iRacing. He's been out with his wife. He's been doing everything in his house. He hasn't had time to focus on racing, so his mindset's going to be great. So I feel like he's going to be good. But I'm going to go the complete opposite of that and go with William Byron getting his first ever win at Darlington because I feel like the momentum is on his side. The confidence is on his side. And he's great around this track. He ran up front a lot. So I feel like he could actually pull off a win straight away.
And that's why he is my underdog. I will not be surprised if he does win. However, he just has not proven that he can do it yet. That's why I'm going with Truex.
He has speed. but I don't know. He just can never pull it together yet. He's got plenty of time though. He's only 21 now. He got plenty of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I guess we heard Matt's pick earlier. So
yeah, that's right.
I'll go with I'm going to keep with kind of the Joe Gibbs Racing train we've had here. I think Eric Jones goes back-to-back 2 years in a row. I mean, he's only made, I guess, like 3 starts at this track, but he's never finished outside the top 10 at Darlington. So I think he just has something about this place that he's got figured out. And obviously he won last year with this rules package. I'll give it to Jones.
No, probably fits into his dirt racing background. The way to each turn is different here, and you got to learn to adapt.
I want to shout someone out really quick. Last week on the picks section, we actually had somebody call out the right winner. I keep track, and I finally brought it back because a lot of times it's usually one of our guests is the one that gets the pick, and last week was no different. Griff Dog picked the winner, Denny Hamlin, last week.
That's right, he did. That's right, and recently Griff Dog retired too from YouTube for the time being. So everyone, go watch his older content. I watch it all the time. So
watch. Like One More Spark or anything like that. It's incredible work. It's
One More Spark. That's like the best NR series I've ever seen. I've never seen one like
even the Dale Earnhardt series. Like that was incredible.
No, outside of TNT Man 93, Griff Dog is like probably like one of the greatest NR 2003 YouTubers I've ever seen. Just off of just the One Last Spark and the Summer Showdown thing.
So underrated.
Before we let our guests say where they need to find them, we should probably Danny, Eric, and Darian, we should probably tell the audience a bit of the special plan we have for next week.
That's right. Who wants to tell that?
I can. We'll be on Eric's channel. Am I pointing the right way? He's on that side.
He's way over there.
No, he's that side. I'm pointing over here.
Eric is.
I'm pointing right there.
Oh no, he's above me. He's above me. That's
he's right here on me.
I hate
so anyway, he's somewhere on the screen. We'll be on his channel at a different time, seeing how NASCAR is going to be racing that night. So we'll be starting the podcast as a pre-race show at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Toby Christie, I think, is scheduled to be on. We'll make sure with him, but it should be a pretty interesting and fun one. It's the first time I think we've ever changed the starting time of the podcast ever.
We have had it on other days before.
We've had it on Tuesday before, like a long time ago.
Tuesdays and Thursdays, but we started at the same time. It took 103 episodes to finally get us to that point.
You know what? I think there was one episode, like season 1, we started at like I think 9 p.m. Eastern time. It was like one time, like way back.
I remember that.
Maybe.
I remember that.
Yeah, maybe that one.
I think so.
But yeah, so be sure to be there, and I see that I think we are at our peak audience right now, so as many people as possible are seeing this.
And hey, just like public television, this is paid for by viewers like you. I want to give a quick shout out here. Judson's Racing Network gave us $1 tonight. Appreciate that, man. We also had $5 came in from Keenan Costain. Appreciate that. He said, I really think, in my opinion, the races are going to be like the early days of NASCAR, which is exciting because of just bringing a car to the track. Yes, that will be
that
an
is.
Fact.
That is.
We also have NASCAR on MDK. Good to see you, dude. He said, here's $2. Have a couple bucks. Appreciate it. Luke Swan.
Get back on Twitter.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I missed you on Twitter already.
He's already back. It's back.
Oh, good.
Luke Swan gave $1.99. Remove Indy instead of Chicagoland. Ooh, that would be a good thing right there.
I want to say something about that. Indy is going nowhere. No matter how much people want that off the schedule, it's going nowhere because that brings in so much money to the sport and to the track. It's going nowhere.
No, I got 2 words for you. Roger Penske.
Yeah.
Yes.
You thought it was leaving anytime soon.
He's going nowhere.
No.
He will run a Roval before he'll get rid of that place there.
Yeah.
I'll have him going to
I'll
have him going to figure 8 before leaving that place.
And then also we got one last one, $5 from Blue Jimmy 48 fan. Good to see you, man. He said, great podcast tonight. Thanks for sponsoring the Support the Troops 600 on Friday. Hope we put on a good show. Expect something massive as well next week. So
Smoke Carbon's channel, correct?
Yeah, Smoke Carbon's channel. He was just doing a test stream today to make sure he's happy.
I'll probably be in the chat for that one. So.
Yeah,
I'm actually going to be I don't know what was going on in my mouth there. I'm actually going to be helping commentate that race, actually.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, you've done that before.
I'll be up in the booth with him and I think Kyle Larson, which I don't know if he's called that anymore.
Oh, damn. Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, so Matt start off, where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, the best place is big on Twitter. Love the platform. Matt Weaver, AW, AutoWeek, AutoWeek.com, and Short Track Scene.
How about you, Jake?
All right, so you guys already subscribed to me. I know that.
Yeah.
Everybody knows me, but they don't know what I look like. Wait, that's the joke around here. But you can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at jbaskinger41, and also connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I've been big on that in the last week.
I still need to get on that.
And of course, down below, I've got links to both Matt and Jake's. I've got Matt's Twitter down there. I've got Jake's YouTube channel down there. And we've got Julia Landauer's Twitter down there.
Yeah, go follow her too. Yeah.
Big thanks for Julia for coming on. That was a really fun interview we had yesterday, and now it's today.
Yeah, it was today. Yeah.
So, I guess we're about ready to close it out. We need one
That's a
thing,
Dale call.
don't we?
I got the Dale call.
Yeah, he's got
Tell
the
me
Dale
when.
call.
There it is.
Oh, God.
He just letting you know it's going to be loud.
Okay, full blast. Here we go. Okay, that's good. It's gone.
And goodbye, everybody. Remember, this ain't the